Chapter 870. Rather than saying those words, it would be more accurate to say that Shi Yao had roared them out. There was even a hint of desperation in her voice that made Lin Jiej, who was looking at Shi Yao with a serious expression, fall into a daze. What kind of reaction is this? Could it be that he doesn't understand what I'm trying to say? But dog meat. Those two words actually came out of his mouth. Shi Yao carefully observed Lin Jiej for a moment, but the latter was still in a daze, as if someone had sealed his acupoints. It seemed like he really doesn't understand what I'm trying to say, but it wasn't easy for her to say those words, so she couldn't possibly give up halfway, right? Shi Yao bit her lower lip as her bright eyes darted around. Deciding that she might as well go all the way, she repeated Lin Jiej's words to him. This dog isn't that dog. She had already hinted so clearly, so he should finally understand what she was trying to say this time, right? Thinking about it, this was the first time in her life that she had acted so brazenly. Shi Yao could vaguely feel her cheeks starting to redden and heat up. Lin Jiej still didn't say a word, but the gaze he was looking at Shi Yao with was slowly changing. Shi Yao was too engrossed in her nervousness to notice the minute changes in his eyes. Seeing that he wasn't saying a word, she thought that he still hadn't realized what she was trying to say, and she felt embarrassed. So she angrily spoke up once more to clarify her words. Lin Jiej, do you still not understand what I'm trying to say? Lin Jiej, why are you so stupid? Lin Jiej, well, you're infuriating me. In the end, Shi Yao's tone became a little harsh, as if she was really angry. I'm not talking to you anymore. As Shi Yao spoke, she suddenly slid down from Lin Jiej's embrace and turned around to face Lin Jiej. Then she reached out and placed her hand on Lin Jiej's shoulder, and with a hint of exasperation in her voice, she lowered her head and pressed her lips against his. She didn't have much experience in kissing, and the few times she could count was all thanks to Lin Jiej. When she kissed him, she was quite aggressive, but after her lips touched his, she copied the way he kissed her and took the initiative a few times. She became helpless and clumsy. She had the heart of a queen, but she did not have the life of a queen. With her lips pressed against Lin Jiej's, Shi Yao racked her brains for a long time, but she still couldn't come up with a way to continue kissing him. So she decided to wait patiently. However, after waiting for a while, Lin Jiej still didn't take the initiative to kiss her. Recalling how he hadn't responded to her despite her hints for so long, she decided to bite down on the corner of Lin Jiej's lips in a fit of pique. The sharp pain caused Lin Jiej's body, which had been frozen for a very long time, to tense up a little. Noticing Zuan's reaction, Shi Yao hurriedly loosened her grip. Yao you. Chapter 871. If Shi Yao had really been a little embarrassed before, at this moment, her words were filled with sincerity. As she spoke, she secretly stuffed the thing she had been holding in her hands after her shower into Lin Jiej's hands. After which, she whispered softly into his ears. My relative passed away yesterday. Lin Jiej. The thing she had stuffed into his hands was wrapped in plastic, and it was a little prickly to the touch. Lin Jiej instinctively glanced at it, and with just a glance he was able to tell what it was. Pregnancy condoms. Back then, when Soft Bun told him to park the car in front of the supermarket, she rejected him and insisted on buying it herself. Was this the reason behind it? Was Soft Bun using her own way to tell him that she was willing to be with him, be it in her heart or her body? Lin Jiej had already guessed what she meant when she said dog meat, just that he wasn't too sure about it. However, at this very moment, when he finally understood what was going on, his heart couldn't help but tremble in fear. It wasn't because he was going to sleep with her, but because she had shown him how much she liked him. Lin Jiej could clearly feel his blood boiling, but the expression on his face didn't betray the ecstasy in his heart. He sat motionlessly on his office chair, silently staring at Shi Yao with a complicated look in his eyes. His lips moved, wanting to say something, but he was so moved by her words that he couldn't utter a single word. It took him a lot of effort before he finally managed to utter a very soft voice. Yeah, I'm very happy. In the end, Shi Yao was still a little shy, so she buried her head in Lin Jiej's embrace, not daring to look at him. When she heard his words, she felt that she should say something in reply, but she didn't know how she should respond. Thus, she racked her brains for a moment before reaching her head over to Lin Jiej's ear with a serious look on her face. As if making a vow, she said, Lin Jiej, hand yourself over to me. I'll take responsibility for you, and I'll treat you well for the rest of your life. Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej. In an instant his emotions vanished. He felt that the most important thing right now was to reestablish his authority as a husband. Just what in the world went wrong? How in the world did he and Softbun get the wrong script? Was she supposed to say those words? If word of this got out, he would be the butt of everyone's jokes. Today, he must sleep with her fiercely. With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej stood up and kicked the chair behind him away. Grabbing Shiryao by the waist, he placed her on his shoulder and began walking out of the study. Lin Jiej kicked open the bedroom door and tossed Shiryao onto the bed. After which, he pressed his body against hers and pressed his lips against hers. He kissed her fiercely, but as he kissed her, his entire being softened. After her shower, she was only wearing a nightgown, and he easily took off her clothes. His lips slowly moved down from her lips to her chin, her earlobe, her delicate neck, and finally her collarbone. Shiryao's heart began to race. Her anxiety was tinged with a tinge of fear, but she didn't try to dodge. Chapter 872. When he didn't control his strength, she couldn't help but let out a hiss from the pain. He hurriedly stopped and pressed his lips against hers again. After kissing her for a while, he lowered his head to her right ear. Although she didn't turn her head to look, she could vaguely hear the sound of his teeth tearing open the packaging. After a while, he raised his head again and met her eyes. The lights in the bedroom weren't turned on. The moonlight outside the window quietly sprinkled on the bed. They looked at each other for a while, and then he slowly lowered his head and kissed her eyes, her nose, her lips. Finally, his lips landed on her heart. Her entire body felt like it was electrocuted. She slightly shivered, and then her fingertips silently grabbed the sheets under her body. She even held her breath. He kissed her like a treasure, inch by inch kissing every inch of her body. In the quiet bedroom, the sound of their uneven breathing gradually drifted out. She could clearly feel his body temperature rising, and in the end it was shockingly hot. She didn't know how long they were intimate like this, but she heard his voice. "Now Yao," she instinctively replied with an N. But before her voice could completely fall, he suddenly straightened his body and barged into her world. He tried his best to be gentle, and she tried her best to mentally prepare herself, but when the moment came she still shivered from the pain. He suddenly stopped and didn't dare to move. He repeatedly kissed the corner of her lips, waiting for her to slowly get used to it. Only when he felt her body relax did he continue again. It was still a little painful, but she tried her best to endure it. She had actually seen similar scenes described in some books. She thought that this moment would be very frightening. But when it really came, she found that even if it was painful, it was also sweet. It was his first time and it was also her first time. They both had no experience and it was all based on human instincts. Between them, it wasn't considered full of tricks, and it was even a little clumsy, but they were strangely satisfied. His body slowly sweated, and when a drop of sweat fell on her chest, there was suddenly an indescribable feeling. Along with the pain he brought her, it entered her blood vessels and drilled into the deepest part of her heart. She knew that this kind of feeling was called soul fusion skin contact. She couldn't help but reach out and hold his shoulder. Her subtle movements caused his body to tremble slightly, and then he became even crazier. Shiryao felt as if her entire being was being devoured by Lin Jiej. In the end, her head began to spin a little, and in her daze, she felt as if she had returned to the time when she was 13. Grandpa Lin had pointed at a handsome young man who looked as if he had walked straight out of a manga and told her that his name was Lin Jiej, and he was her fiancé. After some time, the room finally quieted down. Drenched in sweat, he collapsed on top of her. His breathing was still very messy. After a while he slowly calmed down. He slightly tilted his head, kissed her hair, and then suddenly smiled. "Now you are mine." Shiryao, who was so exhausted that she didn't feel like moving at all, quietly moved her hands. He felt her movement and quickly gave her his hand. Their fingers intertwined and held tightly. After a long time she was finally able to move. She turned her head and replied, "What a coincidence. You're mine too." Chapter 873. It was just a few simple words, but they seemed to be harnessed with boundless might that struck Lin Jie's heart. In that instant, a man like him nearly burst into tears. His throat felt incredibly stifled, but he didn't say a word. Instead, he squeezed her soft hand tightly. The bedroom was very quiet, and just like that, the two of them quietly embraced each other. He felt that it wouldn't be enough for them to just snuggle together like this for the rest of their lives. However, this peaceful atmosphere didn't last for too long before Yao suddenly exclaimed, HM? Lin Jie replied nonchalantly before burying his face in the crook of Yao's neck. The unique sweet fragrance from her body caused his body, which had just calmed down, to heat up once more. Why do I feel that the context of your words sounded so familiar? Yao tilted her head slightly to the side to avoid Lin Jie's lips. Lin Jie's kiss missed, and a slight frown appeared on his forehead. Slightly displeased, he increased the pressure on Yao's body. Thinking that Lin Jie didn't believe her words, Yao spoke up once more. I'm not lying to you. Lin Jie replied with a perfunctory before casually muttering, yes, it does sound familiar. Then, he moved his lips to Yao's neck once more. I feel like I've heard something similar before. Let me think. Dissatisfied with Yao's neglect of him, Lin Jie increased the pressure between his teeth as if punishing her. Yao's body shuddered in pain. Then, as if recalling something, she exclaimed in shock, I get it. I remember now. It's you. You said something similar. Lin Jie, who was completely engrossed in Yao's body, replied with a muffled as his scorching hot lips trailed down from her collarbone. But before his lips could reach her chest, she suddenly spoke up once more. What you said was, what a coincidence. I also met a lunatic today. Lin Jie's lips that were kissing Yao's skin suddenly froze. Lin Jie, tell me honestly. Who is the lunatic you're talking about? Lin Jie fell silent for 2 seconds before deciding to play dumb to the end. He lifted his head from Yao's chest and asked, what lunatic? I don't know what you're talking about. Stop playing dumb. You definitely know what I'm talking about. Lin Jie, don't think that I won't know that the lunatic you're talking about is me just because you're denying it. Not only did you call me a lunatic, you also called me a little fatty. You said I'm 80 kilograms. You even said that I was only 1.4 meters tall, and that if I slept on the top bunk, the person on the bottom bunk wouldn't dare to sleep at night, because she was afraid that the bed would collapse from my weight in the middle of the night and crush her to death. Then you said that I was so fat, so I definitely wouldn't be able to climb up to the top bunk. That's not all. Also, you said that I'm 250 kilograms fat. It's one thing for me to be fat, but I even have pimples all over my face. Lin Jie, what do you mean by that? What do you mean I'm 250 pounds? Are you indirectly calling me stupid? Lin Jie scram. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You're the idiot, you're the fatty. You're the one with pimples all over your face. Hearing Yao's accusations, Lin Jie could feel a thin layer of sweat forming on his back. Chapter 874. Speaking of which, Soft Bun's memory sure was frightening. To think that she would still be able to remember every single word he said to her when they first met in the game. Lin Jie's mind raced for a few seconds before he leaned forward and kissed her on the cheek. With a fawning look on his face, he said, Yao, you sure have a good memory. Back then, when we were chatting on WeChat, you were actually able to memorize everything without missing a single word. Of course. Let me tell you, I can still memorize Master Teacher and Peach Blossom Spring. I can even recite my middle school English text from the first page to the last page. Impressive. My darling sure is impressive. Lin Jie flipped over and lay down on the bed. Then, he pulled Yao into his embrace and placed her down properly. Yao, I've already forgotten everything about Master Teacher. What was the first line? Halfway through the founding of the late Emperor's empire, the middle path crumbles. Today the lower 3 parts fall, and the E province is in dire straits. Right. Next it was, but the loyal subjects work tirelessly on the inside, and the loyal ones forget themselves on the outside. Chasing after the fortune of the late emperor, they seek to repay his kindness to his majesty, and after that? It's only right for me to listen to Sage Zhang's words. In order to uphold the legacy of the late emperor, I should not belittle myself and mislead the righteousness of a righteous man. Shi Yao slowly recovered from her daze and glared at Lin Jie furiously. Lin Jie, you're doing this on purpose. You're trying to divert my attention. Do you think that I'll forgive you just like that? Let me tell you, Lin Jie, I'm even angrier now. The kind that can't be coaxed. But Yao, my name isn't Lin Jie. My name is Gajalan. Looking at the serious look on Lin Jie's face, Shi Yao was rendered speechless. Seeing that Shi Yao was really angered, Lin Jie spoke up without any hesitation. I was wrong. Shi Yao didn't respond. I was really wrong. Shi Yao still didn't respond. Ow, you can't do this. You can't turn your back on me right after sleeping with me. Are you a human? Lin Jie replied without any hesitation. I'm not a human. I'm a dog. Shi Yao couldn't help but burst into laughter. Seeing that she was smiling, Lin Jie winked at her and said, I'll apologize to you, so don't be angry anymore, alright? That depends on how you apologize. I'll decide whether or not to forgive you. And I'll kneel down and apologize to you. I'll kneel until you're satisfied, okay? Then kneel. Give me a moment. As Lin Jie said those words, Shi Yao felt that Lin Jie's hand seemed to have touched something, and a faint sound could be heard. A moment later, after the voices faded away, Lin Jie suddenly wrapped his arms around her and flipped her over, pinning her beneath his body. Before Shi Yao could react, Lin Jie had already barged into her world. His series of actions came without any warning, causing Shi Yao's body to tremble in fear. She subconsciously called out to him, but before she could make a sound, his lips had already pressed against hers. After a long time, the room regained its peace. Lin Jie panted heavily as he stared at Shi Yao beneath him. He reached out to stroke her wet hair and asked, Are you satisfied now? Chapter 875. Not satisfied? Then I'll continue. As soon as Lin Jie said those words, his hands moved from her waist to her chest. It was then that Shi Yao finally understood what Lin Jie meant by, I'll kneel down and apologize to you until you're satisfied. Kneel down and apologize. That's right, he was kneeling the entire time. Shi Yao's face burned in embarrassment. She reached out to stop Lin Jie's fidgeting hands and scolded, Lin Jie, you pervert. Despite being scolded, Lin Jie didn't mind it at all and lowered his head to kiss Shi Yao's collarbone. His kiss was very serious, and it didn't take long for Shi Yao's breathing to become uneven. Lin Jie, aren't you tired? Are you doubting the sincerity of my apology? Right after Lin Jie said those words, Shi Yao saw a small paper bag falling from his fingertips to the floor. In any case, Shi Yao was tormented to the point that by the time it was over, she was so exhausted that she didn't even feel like moving. In her daze, she knew that Lin Jie had carried her to the bathroom for a shower, and by the time he dried her body and placed her back on the bed, she had already fallen into a deep slumber. In contrast to the completely paralyzed Shi Yao, Lin Jie didn't feel the slightest bit sleepy. He gazed at the sleeping girl in his embrace, and the corners of his lips crept up again and again. He didn't know how long he had been staring at Shi Yao, but it was only when he heard the notification of a message on his phone that he turned his gaze to the bedside table. Afraid that his phone would continue ringing and wake Shi Yao up, he immediately picked it up and silenced it. Then he took a look at his WeChat. Someone in the Sexy and Frisky group had messaged him. He tapped into it and saw that it was Lu Benlai and Xia Shangzhou asking him if he wanted to play with Shi Yao. Without thinking, he typed 3 words, not interested. Just as he was about to send it out, he suddenly seemed to have thought of something. He clicked on the group name card and changed his name. Then, he returned to the Sexy and Frisky group page and sent out the 2 words he had just typed, not interested. Juice. Ice cream. Expert of the monkeys. Who's ice cream? He's actually the same as Big Head. Juice, grandson, are you stupid? This doesn't look the same as the boss. This is the boss. Expert of the monkeys. Why did our boss take things too hard and name her ice cream? No, wait. Little Junior is Yao loves ice cream. Yao loves ice cream. What the heck, do you have to be so overboard? You even have to feed dog food to a name. Juice. It's one thing to feed her with dog food, but to do it in such a deranged manner. She even brazenly changed her name to Little Junior loves to eat herself. Loves to eat. Juice squinting eyes face Yao loves ice cream little junior, can you please keep him in check? Expert of the monkeys. Yao loves ice cream. Can you come out and protect the single dogs for a moment? Ice cream. No need, she can't see it. Juice. How do you know little junior can't see? Ice cream, she's asleep. Expert of the monkeys. How do you know little junior is asleep? Chapter 876. In an instant the group fell silent. A minute later. Juice. Heck. Does that mean that you're not the same type of person as me and old Shirley? The same type of person? A slight frown appeared on Lin Jiej's forehead as he tapped on the screen. Ice cream. When did I ever become the same type of person as you? I had a fiancé even before I was born. Do you guys have one? Juice. Boss, I beg of you, please be a little gentler with your words. Expert of the monkeys. Boss, you might have little junior now, but you can't treat me and little Lili like that. Following which, the two of them began sending crazed crying emojis over and over again. Looking at the series of emojis that were flooding into the screen, Lin Jiej decided to show them some mercy this time. Seeing how pitiful you are and how you're all alone for the rest of the night, why don't I tell you a bedtime story so that you can sleep better? Juice. Boss, I knew you loved me. Expert of the monkeys. Scram, you shameless bastard. Boss clearly loves me the most. He's telling me a bedtime story, you're just basking in my glory. Juice. I really couldn't tell that my grandson actually has no self-awareness at all. Faced with the two of them inexplicably bickering with one another in the group, Lin Jiej continued typing on his phone with an impassive expression. Roughly 3 minutes later, he sent the bedtime story he had typed out. Ice cream. There's a boy who was born in a relatively well-off family. The boy's academic performance was excellent, and there were many girls who fancied him, but the boy never paid any attention to them. It was only when the boy was 15 that his grandfather told him that he had a fiancée that the boy met with his fiancée. After that, the boy and his fiancée went through many things and eventually they got together. The boy's name was Lin Jiej, and his fiancée was Shi Yao. Juice. Expert of the monkeys. Juice. Boss, are you sure you're telling me a bedtime story? Expert of the monkeys. Boss, are you sure you're not showing off your happiness? Ice cream. You don't like it? Ice cream. Then I'll give you another one. Ice cream. There was a man who loved to play games and one day he met a girl in the game. Out of sheer coincidence, the two of them added each other as friends, and from then on, they would often play together. As time passed, they developed feelings for one another, and eventually, their relationship in the game developed into a loving couple in real life. The man's name was Lin Jiej, and the woman's name was Shi Yao. Juice. Expert of the monkeys. Ice cream. What? Or not? All right then, I'll give you another bedtime story. Chapter 877. Juice. Boss, I'm sleepy. You don't have to tell me a bedtime story anymore. Expert of the monkeys. Boss, I'm sleepy too, so you don't have to tell me a bedtime story anymore. Ice cream. Oh right, before Lin Jiej could finish his sentence, Lu Benlai and Xia Shangzhou had already sent another message over. Juice. Daddy, I'm really sleepy. Expert of the monkeys. Daddy, I'm already asleep. Lin Jiej leisurely tapped on the keyboard. Ice cream. You've misunderstood me. I'm not telling you a bedtime story anymore. I'm just telling you that. Yao Yao kicked her blanket away, so I'm going to cover her up. I don't have the time to tell you a bedtime story anymore. After sending the message, Lin Jiej locked his screen and put down his phone. After carefully covering Shi Yao with her blanket, he turned back to look at the sleeping Shi Yao. The more Lin Jiej looked at her, the more surreal he felt. It was almost as if he was dreaming. He couldn't help but reach out to touch Shi Yao's cheek. The soft and warm touch made him feel a little more at ease. Then he continued to stare intently at Shi Yao. His gaze was very serious, as if he was afraid that everything would vanish the moment he closed his eyes. This was the first girl he had fallen in love with, the first girl he had ever gotten intimate with, and the girl who would accompany him for the rest of his life. Lin Jiej slept later than Shi Yao, but he woke up earlier than her. When he opened his eyes, the morning sun shone through the open curtains, illuminating the room. He narrowed his eyes and subconsciously glanced at the girl in his embrace. She was sleeping soundly on his chest. He suddenly felt a lot more at ease. Gazing at the sunlight outside the window, he felt an inexplicable sense of relaxation. In his mind, nothing could be more blissful than opening his eyes to the sunlight and having Yao in his arms. Yao slept deeply and for a long time. By the time she woke up, it was already noon. This was her first time sharing a bed with a boy. She thought that she was in the dormitory, so when she opened her eyes, she subconsciously stretched. Then her hands and feet touched strong muscles. Her body stiffened, and it took her a moment before she realized what had happened last night. She was just about to turn around to see if Lin Jiej had woken up when Lin Jiej stretched his head into the crook of her neck and asked, "You're awake?" His breath brushed against her ear, making her feel numb and numb. She couldn't help but shrink her neck a little as she replied with a soft "Still tired." Yao was stunned for a moment before she realized what he was referring to. Her face reddened as she shook her head lightly. She realized that he was hugging her from behind, so he couldn't see her movements. Thus she spoke up once more. "I was really tired last night, but I'm fine now." As her voice fell, she clearly felt that his hands were starting to get naughty. "Lin Jiej," she subconsciously called out his name, but before she could finish her sentence, his hand had already reached between her thighs. She instinctively tensed her body, and when she spoke again, there was a slight tremble in her voice. "What do you want?" Chapter 878. When he finally reached the end, he lowered his head and kissed her passionately for a while before replying, "Apologize." That day, Yao didn't leave Lin Jiej's house. The first day was still fine. Even though Yao had classes, she was still an obedient child who rarely skipped classes, so it wasn't a big deal for her to skip a single class. As for Lin Jiej, the company was his, so no one dared to say anything even if he didn't go to work. But who knew that when Yao woke up the next day, she would still be bedridden. She skipped classes for another day, and Lin Jiej skipped work for another day as well. Yao's absences would only result in a deduction of her final exam marks, but Lin Jiej was different. On the afternoon of the second day, his phone started ringing a little frequently. That night, Yao emphasized to Lin Jiej that he had to wake up early the next morning and go to work. Lin Jiej replied with a soft "anan" as he kissed her skin. However, on the third morning, Lin Jiej tampered with the alarm Yao had set in the middle of the night, and when she woke up, he was still pestering her to the point where she couldn't get out of bed. On the third day, Lin Jiej's phone calls could be said to be endless. Right after he hung up, another call came in after being scammed twice in a row. On the fourth night, before she went to sleep, she made sure to not set an alarm again. Instead, she used her phone to call for a breakfast takeaway, and it would be delivered to Lin Jiej's apartment at 8 a.m. sharp. At 8 o'clock, the doorbell rang punctually, jolting the sleeping Yao and Lin Jiej awake. Yao knew that the breakfast she had ordered had arrived, so she urged Lin Jiej to hurry up and receive the delivery. Lin Jiej found some home clothes and put them on before walking out of the bedroom. 3 minutes later he returned. Falling onto the bed, he subconsciously pulled Yao into his embrace, and just like the previous 3 mornings, his hand naturally began searching for Yao's chest. Just as his hand was about to touch Yao's chest, Yao suddenly flipped onto Lin Jiej's body and lowered her head to kiss him on the lips. It was rare for Yao to take the initiative like this. Even though her actions were clumsy, she still managed to mesmerize Lin Jiej with just a few kisses. Unable to restrain himself, his hand once more touched Yao's skin. "No." Yao dodged Lin Jiej's hand and whispered into his ear, "I want to do it myself." Even though Lin Jiej found it hard to hold himself back, he still relented after hearing Yao's words. But just as Yao was about to lower her head to kiss the corner of Lin Jiej's lips once more, she suddenly thought of something. She reached out to grab a tie by the side and tied it around Lin Jiej's hands. "In order to prevent you from regretting your decision later on, I'll tie you up first." Lin Jiej didn't resist, allowing her to tie his hands. When she lowered her head to kiss him, he even whispered seductively to her, "Yao, I didn't think that you would have such a thing." Yao didn't say a word. Instead, she flashed a radiant smile at Lin Jiej before lowering her head to kiss him. At the same time, when he wasn't paying attention, she wrapped the tie binding his hands around a pillar by the side of the bed. Yao's kiss made Lin Jiej's head spin. Just as he was about to take Yao down on the spot, the shy and obedient girl suddenly flipped around and stood by the side of the bed. Lin Jiej was stunned for a moment before he turned to look at Yao. Oh. Chapter 879. Meeting his gaze, Yao bent down and patted his cheeks, saying, "You should just lie here obediently. Your secretary will be here to save you in around half an hour. As for me, I'll be heading off to school first." Hearing Yao's words, Lin Jiej's eyes were still a little dazed. He blinked his eyes several times before realizing that he had been tricked by Soft Bun. So, her initiative and seduction earlier were all part of her scheme? It was no wonder why everyone said that femme fatale. To think that someone as smart as me failed to see through her honey trap. It was just that he was burning up because of her, and it was hard for him to hold it in. But of course Lin Jiej wouldn't let his thoughts show on his face, so he said, "Yao, untie me. I'll send you to school." Hearing those words, Yao's hand that was patting Lin Jiej's cheeks turned to pinch his beautiful cheeks instead. "Do you think that I'm a fool? I spent so much effort to tie you up. I'll only untie you if I'm out of my mind and don't want to go to school. As for you, don't think that I'll let you go. If you have the time, why don't you spend it on calming down your body?" After saying those words, Yao straightened her back and prepared to head to the bathroom. However, just as she was about to turn around, she suddenly remembered that she was only using a tie. What if Lin Jiej managed to break free from it? So she headed to the changing room, grabbed a bunch of ties and tied them around Lin Jiej's legs and hands. After confirming that he was unable to break free, she clapped her hands with a look of delight on her face before skipping into the bathroom. Not too long later, the sound of splashing water could be heard from the bathroom. Lying on the bed, Lin Jiej felt even more tormented as he listened to the sound. He tried to move his body and tried to move his body again, but he couldn't break free. It wasn't a good thing for his girlfriend to have a high IQ. When Yao finally finished washing up and walked out of the bathroom in a bathrobe, Lin Jiej immediately put on an impatient expression and said, "Now I need to pee." "I see." Yao glanced at Lin Jiej on the bed before calmly walking into the changing room. She took out the clothes that she had left behind and put them on as she replied nonchalantly, "You can go ahead and pee on the bed then. In any case, you'll have to change the bedsheets anyway, so it's no big deal. You don't lack money anyway, do you? Don't feel disgusted. In the future, when you're old, you might be paralyzed. When you're lying on the bed and unable to move, you'll also experience this. So now just experience it in advance. Thinking about it this way, it's quite good." "Ha ha. Ha ha ha." Feeling aggrieved, Lin Jiej turned his head to the side and rubbed his head against the pillow. After which, he spoke up once more, "Yao, it's fine for you to tie me up, but when my secretary comes later and sees this sight, what will he think?" Chapter 880. As Yao gently applied eye cream around her eyes, she shot a glance at Lin Jiej through the vanity mirror and asked, "Didn't you say that you're a dog?" Lin Jiej was rendered speechless by her words. 3 seconds later, Lin Jiej spoke up once more. "All right, let's just say that I'm a dog. Think about it, I'm also your dog. If my secretary were to spread word of my current situation, how am I supposed to continue being a dog? Also, there's a saying that goes, before you beat a dog, you have to look at its master first. If that happens, I won't be the only one who'll be embarrassed. I'll be the one who'll be embarrassed too. That does make sense." Yao nodded in agreement. Seeing hope, Lin Jiej's eyes lit up. "So Yao, hurry up and let go of me. It's impossible for me to let go of you, but I don't need your secretary to save you anymore. I'll get someone from my own family to save you." As she spoke, Yao picked up her phone and said, "I'll get Sis Jai to come over. In any case, Sis Jai used to bathe you when you were young, so no matter how pathetic you look now, it won't matter to her." "Lin Jai? You must be joking. That demoness? Even if she came, she might as well be his secretary." Lin Jiej was so shocked that he nearly shot up from his bed. However, his hands and feet were tied up, so he couldn't get up at all. "Yao." He immediately tried to stop Yao, but he was still a step too late. Yao had already made the call, and Lin Jai seemed to have been waiting by her phone for a long time. She picked up Shi Yao's call almost instantaneously. Darling Yao, good morning. Sis Jai, good morning. Hearing Darling Yao's voice early in the morning really puts me in a good mood. Yao moi, Lin Jia's face darkened. Moi, your little brother, moi, Sis Jai. I'm calling because I need your help. Alright, speak. It's like this, Sis Jai. Can you come to Lin Jia's apartment in around half an hour's time? Lin Jie. Shi Yao turned to look at Lin Jie, who was still tied up by her, and hesitated for a moment before saying, he might need your help. You'll know once you get there. Doesn't the ATM have hands? Lin Jia's gentle tone a moment ago suddenly turned frigid, as if she wasn't interested at all. Shi Yao was taken aback by Lin Jia's sudden change in attitude. Sis Jai. Alright, Yao, for your sake I will go there. Thank you, Sis Jai. She chatted with Lin Jai for a while longer before hanging up the call. Having already packed up, Shi Yao walked over to the bed and grabbed her bag. I'm going to class now. Sis Jai will be there in half an hour, so be good. After saying those words, Shi Yao waved her hand at Lin Jie before walking out of the bedroom without looking back. Lying on the bed, Lin Jie could hear Shi Yao's footsteps getting further and further away. He heard the sound of the door opening and closing, and then he heard the sound of his own heart turning cold. Half a minute later, the door was pushed open once more, and the lifeless Lin Jie abruptly opened his eyes. Hearing the approaching footsteps, he could tell that it was Shi Yao's footsteps, and he immediately asked, Yao, are you? Chapter 881. Before he could finish his words, the bedroom door was pushed open, and Shi Yao poked her head in. Oh right. Where did you place the takeout you picked up this morning? Lin Jie could clearly hear the sound of his heart shattering. Noticing Lin Jie's silence, Shi Yao frowned and asked, Lin Jie? Lin Jie hurriedly retracted his thoughts and replied, it's on the dining table. All right. Shi Yao replied with a radiant smile before closing the bedroom door with a pung. Following which, Lin Jie could hear her footsteps in the living room going further and further away. Eventually, the bedroom door was closed, and silence returned to the room. Lin Jie couldn't help but clench his teeth in frustration. Does Soft Bun think that she'll be safe just because she's aroused by me? Just you wait. I'll see how he's going to deal with her the next time he catches her. Lin Jie promised Shi Yao that she would arrive at Lin Jie's apartment in half an hour, and 30 minutes later, Lin Jie appeared at the doorstep of Lin Jie's apartment. Lin Jie didn't know the passcode, so she called both Shi Yao and Lin Jie, but neither of them picked up. So she decided to try the passcode on the door. 111,111, 222,222, 333,333, and when she reached 666,666, just as she had expected, the door opened with a kacha. Pushing the door open, Lin Jie changed her shoes while shouting, ATM. She called out a few times but no one paid any attention to her. She placed her bag on the sofa and walked into the bedroom. Pushing the door open, she saw the scene on the bed, and as if someone had sealed her acupoints, she froze at the doorway. 3, 2, 1. Lin Jie silently counted down in his heart, and just as he had expected, as soon as the one came to mind, Lin Jie's laughter sounded from the doorway. I knew it would be like this. Lin Jie buried his head under the pillow and played dead. I didn't think that you two would be so good at having fun. Is this SM? My younger brother is actually a masochist? TSK. As Lin Jie spoke, she scanned the entire room. Then, for some inexplicable reason, she started counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Curious, Lin Jie poked his head out from under the pillow. He was just about to ask Lin Jie what she was counting when he saw Lin Jie squatting down beside the rubbish bin and counting. 6, 7, 8. Not bad. ATM machine. I didn't expect you to be so formidable. Lin Jie instantly understood that Lin Jie was referring to the number of umbrellas, but he couldn't be bothered with her anymore. Instead, he retracted his head back under the pillow. No, there's one more than 10. To be honest, you haven't gone out for a few days. No wonder Yao wanted to tie you up. You sure know how to rub it in. Lin Jie couldn't take it anymore. Name your price. I like ATM machines. You're so straightforward. Lin Jie circled around Lin Jie and said, There's a total of 19 ties here. Each tie costs 8,888 yuan for a casual tie and 18,888 yuan for a premium tie. Without waiting for Lin Jie to finish her words, Lin Jie interjected, "Hurry up." Chapter 882. Lin Jie couldn't even be bothered to bicker with Lin Jie. He bit down on the pen and wrote Lin Jie on the paper. Lin Jie took a look at the IOU, and after confirming that there were no problems with it, she carefully folded the paper and stuffed it into her pocket. After which, she took out a pair of shiny scissors from her trouser pocket. Wait a moment. Before Lin Jie could finish his words, Lin Jie had already shredded his expensive, limited edition neckties into shreds. After she was done, Lin Jie casually tossed the scissors onto the bed and said, "All right, it's done. Done your head, I've done it." Lin Jie stared at the 6 digits that had been destroyed in an instant, and with gritted teeth, he spat, "Lin Jie, don't you know how to undo them?" "Of course I do, but you asked for a straightforward price. If you had chosen the premium price, I would have surely helped you undo them carefully, and I would have even given you my best service by ironing the ties one by one." After hearing Lin Jie's unreasonable words, Lin Jie couldn't even be bothered to look at her anymore. He pointed to the door and said, "You can leave now." After which, he pulled back his blanket, got off the bed and headed for the bathroom. "ATM machine, don't be in such a hurry to chase me away. We still have a deal to make. I took a photo of you in those condoms. Don't you want to destroy them?" Lin Jie grumbled non-stop as she followed behind Lin Jie. Seeing that Lin Jie was ignoring her, Lin Jie spoke up once more. "Since you don't want to destroy them, fine then. I'll print out all of these photos later and set up a photo album in the lobby of the Lin Consortium's first floor. I'll place your photos on it so that everyone in the company can have a look at them." Lin Jie halted his footsteps and asked, "Speak, how much?" Before Lin Jie could finish his words, Lin Jie's phone suddenly rang. It was an incident notification. Lin Jie, who was browsing through the photos on her phone, casually tapped it open, and upon seeing the content of the incident, the gleeful look on her face vanished without a trace, replaced by a deep sorrow. She gripped her phone tightly and stared at the screen for a long time before she finally raised her head and said to Lin Jie, "Forget it. On account that you're my younger brother, I won't take the money. I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll be taking my leave first." After saying those words, without waiting for Lin Jie's response, she turned around and strode out of the bedroom. A slight frown appeared on Lin Jie's forehead as he vaguely sensed that something was amiss. He turned to Lin Jie and said, "Sis." Lin Jie's footsteps faltered for a moment. 3 seconds later, she turned around with her usual radiant and elegant smile on her face. "What's wrong?" Lin Jie stared at Lin Jie for a moment, but he didn't notice anything amiss, so he shook his head and said, "It's nothing. I still have a meeting, so I won't make it in time. I'll be taking my leave first," Lin Jie said as she turned around with her back facing Lin Jie. After bidding him farewell, she pulled open the bedroom door and walked out. In the instant that she closed the bedroom door, the smile that she had tried so hard to squeeze out of her face vanished in an instant, and a layer of mist slowly crept into her pitch-black eyes. Chapter 883. After putting on her shoes, Lin Jie didn't dare to stay any longer. She quickly dashed out of the door, rushed to the elevator, and pressed the button desperately. The elevator door opened, and Lin Jie rushed in as if she was running for her life. There was someone inside. With her head lowered, she suppressed her emotions that were on the verge of breaking down and pushed herself up the stairs one floor at a time. After arriving at the underground parking lot, Lin Jie got into her car and closed the door. All of a sudden, she shed all of her disguise and forced herself to hang on the steering wheel as she wept like a child who couldn't find her home. Have you ever loved someone wholeheartedly before? Lin Jie had. She was born into a good family, and she was doted on ever since she was born. Even though she was her elder sister, her younger brother, who was 3 years younger than her, was more like an elder brother, giving in to her all the time. Yet, for the sake of a man, she wrecked the kitchen just to learn how to cook and nurture his stomach. Yet, for the sake of a man, she stayed up late to watch a soccer match that she wasn't interested in at all. Yet, for the sake of a man, she willingly abandoned her luxury car and rode on a bicycle. Those were the best and happiest moments of her life. But ultimately those moments were too short. He had left, a departure that could never come back. Everyone said that parting should be done with dignity, but all these years she had been longing to see him again. She knew that this was a wish that would never come true. She understood how extravagant a dream it was to say that they hadn't met for a long time. Lin Jai cried her heart out, as if she had dried up all the tears that she had been holding back for a long time. It took a long time before she finally stopped. Her entire body slumped against the steering wheel, and after a long while, she finally raised her head and took out a photo from her bag. It was a photo of a boy and a girl in their school uniform. The girl in the photo was her. A blissful smile could be seen on her face, and the boy beside her was looking at her dotingly. Lin Jai stared at the photo for a very long time before she raised her head to look at the rearview mirror. She smiled every day, but her smile would never be as beautiful as the one in the photo. I can't go back. I can't go back to those good times that made me wish that I could lead a befuddled life anymore. Qin Ting, this is the 6th year since you left, do you know that? In the past 6 years I didn't dare to think about you. Do you know? Over the past 6 years, whenever the day of your departure arrives, I feel like I'm no longer the invincible Lin Jai. As soon as Lin Jiej arrived at the company, he had a busy day ahead of him. When he didn't come to the company, the people in the company all looked for him, but when he really came to the company, the people in the company couldn't wait for him to disappear. The meeting started at 9 o'clock in the morning. When he stepped into the company, he held one meeting after another without stopping. Even lunch was eaten in the conference room. By 2:30 p.m., not only had Lin Jiej managed to clear all the work that had piled up recently, he even brought forward the meeting scheduled for the next day. Returning to his office, he took a look at the time on his wrist and noted that there was still an hour before Shi Yao's class ended. He glanced at his secretary who had followed him in and asked, "Is there anything else that you haven't finished?" The secretary handed him a document. "This is the only document that requires your signature." Chapter 884. After saying those words, Lin Jiej stood up, grabbed his phone and car keys, and walked to the side to grab his coat. Ignoring his secretary who was still in his office, he left the office and headed to G University to pick up his girlfriend. Shi Yao's class ended at 3:30 p.m. and before 3:15 p.m., Lin Jiej was already waiting for her at the entrance of the classroom. At 3:30 p.m., Shi Yao's class ended punctually. She quickly packed up her textbooks and shoved them over to He Tiantian, who was sitting beside her, before hurriedly saying, "Tiantian, help me take them back to the dormitory room." "Thanks." Then before He Tiantian, Jiangyu and Lung Nuan could ask her what she was doing in such a hurry, Shi Yao leaped out of the classroom window and left through the back of the building under their dumbfounded gazes. Quite a few people would glance at Lin Jiej, who was standing at the entrance of the classroom. As if they didn't exist, Lin Jiej patiently waited at the entrance of the classroom. When He Tiantian, Jiangyu and Lung Nuan came out, but Shi Yao was nowhere to be seen. A slight frown appeared on his forehead. "Where's Yaoya? Isn't she in class?" "Jiangyu, she's in." Before Lin Jiej could ask Shi Yao where she was, He Tiantian had already pointed to the classroom window behind her and said, "Yaoya just leaped out of the window, Lin Jiej." Without saying a word, Lin Jiej strode out of the building and headed to the back of the building to wait for her. Along the way, Lin Jiej once again realized that it wasn't a good thing to have a girlfriend with a high IQ. The reason he didn't dare to call her was because he was afraid that she would avoid him. But, after searching for a long time at the back of the building, he still couldn't find Shi Yao. In the end, he could only take out his phone and give Shi Yao a call. The phone rang a few times before it was finally picked up. "Ah, where are you?" "Me?" Shi Yao replied with a question. Then, as if recalling something, she suddenly realized something and said, "I saw that it's still early, so I didn't want to disturb you. I'm on my way to your place right now. Didn't we miss the family gathering a few days ago? I was afraid that Grandpa Lin would be unhappy, so I made an appointment with him to accompany him for dinner tonight, Lin Jiej." It's not that having a girlfriend with a high IQ isn't a good thing. It's that having a girlfriend with a high IQ isn't a good thing. She had predicted that he would come over and avoided him. Now she had even found Grandpa to protect her. Even if he saw her and wanted to carry her away, he wouldn't dare to do it in front of Grandpa. Lin Jiej? Sure Yao waited for a moment, but Lin Jiej didn't reply. Oh, I got it. See you at the old house later. After hanging up the call, Lin Jiej felt stifled for a moment before he walked out of the academy and drove to the Lin family mansion. When he arrived, Sure Yao was currently accompanying Grandpa Lin in the study, looking at an ancient painting. He had no idea what Sure Yao was saying, but Grandpa Lin seemed to be beaming with joy. Seeing him, Auntie Sun called out to Grandpa Lin in the study, "Grandpa, the young master is here." "Oh." Old Master Lin responded, then continued to call out "Ah" with a smile, starting their conversation. Lin Jiej, who was used to being ignored, calmly sat on the sofa and watched the television. Even though he said that he was watching television, his attention wasn't on it at all. His gaze kept drifting toward the door of the study. After some time, the doorbell suddenly rang. Chapter 885. Lin Jiej, who was the closest to the entrance, tossed the remote control aside before Auntie Sun could open the door. Through the surveillance camera on the wall, he saw who it was, and his complexion immediately turned awful. Auntie Sun was in the midst of preparing dinner in the kitchen when she heard the doorbell ring. She immediately ran over and asked, "Young master, who is it?" Lin Jiej snapped out of his daze, and before Auntie Sun could approach to take a look at the surveillance camera, he replied impassively, "It's the delivery man. You should go back to your work." "I'll go get it." Auntie Sun was perplexed as to why Lin Jiej would suddenly care about such trifling matters, but she still nodded and replied with an "all right" before heading back to the kitchen. Lin Jiej changed out of his shoes, pushed open the door, and leisurely made his way out. Even though he was still quite a distance away, when the two men outside saw him clearly, they immediately called out to him fawningly, "Jiej." Lin Jiej didn't say a word, and there wasn't much of a change in his expression. As he walked up to the door, the two men outside began calling out to him even more warmly and frequently. He unlocked the door nonchalantly, and one of them subconsciously pushed the door open, intending to enter. However, Lin Jiej beat him to it and walked out, closing the door behind him. The two men were taken aback by Lin Jiej's actions. A moment later, one of them finally spoke up. His voice was far less fawning than before, and there was a hint of caution in it. "Jiej?" Hearing those words, Lin Jiej casually pointed to a small garden in the neighborhood and said, "If there's anything, let's talk over there." The two men were taken aback for a moment before they nodded subserviently and replied, "All right, all right." Without saying a word, Lin Jiej began walking in the direction that the other man had pointed out earlier. But barely after he took 2 steps, a SF Express really drove over and stopped right in front of his house. It can't be, right? He made up a story that he was a delivery man, but there really was a delivery man here? Thinking that it was a coincidence, Lin Jiej asked, "A delivery from Courtyard 1? "That's right, Lin Jiej, from Courtyard 1. The delivery man replied as he got out of the car. "His delivery? He never left the address of the old house, so how could there be a delivery for him?" Lin Jiej frowned in bewilderment. He stretched out his hand and said, "I'm Lin Jiej. Give it to me." The courier passed a pen and a parcel over to Lin Jiej. After signing his name, Lin Jiej returned the pen to the courier. After which, he took the package and examined it carefully, only to see that his address was written on it. As for the sender's information other than the word Beijing, there was nothing else. This delivery sure is mysterious. Lin Jiej continued walking toward the small park as he unwrapped the package. The package was wrapped in a paper envelope, so it didn't take Lin Jiej long to dig through the contents inside. It was a small white electronic device. Lin Jiej tossed the paper bag into a nearby trash can as he picked up the electronic device to study it. From the looks of it, it should be a recording pen. Interesting. Lin Jiej was getting more and more curious about the contents of the recording pen, but he didn't have a chance to listen to it. The two men who had followed him to the small park spoke up one after another. "Jiej." Chapter 886. Meeting Lin Jiej's gaze, the two of them spoke up once more. Jiej? Uncle Sure, Auntie Sure, it's nice to meet you. Lin Jiej greeted them politely. But after that, he went straight to the main topic. Uncle Sure, Auntie Sure, may I know the reason why you're here today? Perhaps it was due to Lin Jiej being too distant. The two of them fell silent for a moment before Father Sure spoke up. Actually, it's nothing much. It's just that we haven't seen old Master Lin for a very long time. So we came to the city today to see if he's doing well. Thank you for your concern, Uncle Sure, Auntie Sure. Grandfather is doing very well. If there's nothing else, you can leave now. Father and Mother Sure didn't expect Lin Jiej to be so merciless, and they looked at one another uneasily. Eventually, Mother Sure smiled apologetically and asked, Jiej, is Yao Yao in the old residence at the moment? Lin Jiej lowered his eyelids and replied without hiding anything, yes. A second later, he raised his eyelids again, and his tone turned resolute, but I won't let you see her. Jiej, what do you mean by that? Why won't you let us see Yao? Mother Sure immediately chimed in, that's right, Yao Yao is our daughter. It's not like we would harm her. Besides, it's only right for us to see our daughter. Lin Jiej looked as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, and his lips curled up into a cold sneer. Could it be that the two of you have some kind of misunderstanding regarding the word daughter? What kind of misunderstanding can there be? Yao Yao is a piece of flesh that fell from my body, so she's my daughter. That's right. We brought Yao Yao up painstakingly. Without us, she wouldn't be here. That's right. In terms of bloodline, she's your daughter. As those words left Lin Jiej's lips, his eyes suddenly turned sharp and menacing. But in terms of emotions, she isn't one to you. Have you ever loved this daughter of yours? Back at the hospital, I was the one who brought her home in the middle of the night. She stayed outside for so long, did any of you think about it? Since that day it has been so many days Yao Yao hasn't come back home. Did you guys look for her? It's getting cold. Did any of you bring her clothes? Now, didn't you come to find her because you found out that I'm with her? You think that this daughter of yours is valuable again, so you quickly came to continue playing the role of a loving father and mother, right? You keep saying that you came to see Grandpa. If Yao Yao wasn't at the old house today, would you have come? Lin Jiej's tone wasn't too heavy, and there wasn't much emotion mixed into it. However, there was a certain kind of person who was born with an imposing aura. He didn't need to do anything at all to suppress the other party to the point where they couldn't even lift their heads. Lin Jiej's words rendered Father and Mother Sure speechless for a very long time. After a long time, Mother Sure finally said, "We were foolish before we let Yao down." Papa Sure added, "Yes. It's my fault, it's all my fault." Chapter 887. If he hadn't coincidentally stumbled upon them, Auntie's son would have opened the door and respectfully invited them in. If that were to happen, Soft Bun would surely be heartbroken to see them like that, right? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej's gaze turned colder, and even his tone grew harsher. "Since we've bumped into each other today, I'll make it clear to you. Even if you don't love her, I do. Even if you don't feel pain, I do. Even if you don't dote on her, I do. Even if you can't give her a beautiful family, I do. I don't have many requests for you, but if I have to say anything, I only have one request. If you can't give her happiness, I hope that you won't make her sad. You're Yao Yao's biological parents, so I won't do anything to you today on account of our blood relationship. However, I'll make it clear first. I might not be capable of anything else, but my greatest strength is my narrow-mindedness. From now on, if I see any of you making Yao Yao unhappy, don't blame me for not showing mercy." After saying those words, Lin Jiej shot a glance at the pale Mr. and Mrs. Sure and said, "If there's nothing else, I'll be heading back first." After saying those words, Lin Jiej stood on the spot for a moment. Thinking that he still hoped for Sure Yao to have a beautiful family, he added, "If you really treat Yao Yao as your daughter, you'd better think about how you should treat her." After which, he turned around and left. Not too long after the doorbell rang, Sure Yao walked out of the study. To be honest, she was still a little fearful of how she had treated Lin Jiej earlier in a moment of panic. She had personally experienced his fighting prowess, and she knew that he must have been suppressing his anger. If she were to be caught by him, she might not even be able to leave the house for 3 days and 3 nights. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao's heart shuddered. She turned her head around to look for Lin Jie. Where is he? Shi Yao looked at the stairs and hesitated for a moment, not daring to go up. If he was really in the bedroom, wouldn't she be unable to come out if she went in? Miss Shi, would you like some fruits? Just as Shi Yao was hesitating, Auntie Sun walked out of the kitchen with a plate of fruits in her hands. Without any hesitation, Shi Yao rushed over to the fruit platter, and as she picked up a fork to eat, she turned to Auntie Sun and asked, Is Lin Jie upstairs? No, young master went to collect the package. After replying to Shi Yao's question, Auntie Sun craned her neck to take a look outside the courtyard. Speaking of which, it's really weird. Why don't I see him at the entrance? So, he's not upstairs. Shi Yao calmed down and stuffed 2 more mouthfuls of fruit into her mouth before boldly heading out to look for Lin Jie. But before she could reach the entrance, she saw Lin Jie's silhouette darting to the left through the fence in the courtyard. Out of curiosity, Shi Yao hastened her footsteps. To the left was a small park. It couldn't be that Lin Jie was in a bad mood because of her, so he decided to hide in the small park alone? Shi Yao didn't think too much into it. She began walking toward the small park, but before she could pass through the lush greenery, she suddenly heard a familiar voice coming from the small park. Chapter 888. Shi Yao's footsteps came to a halt. Every single word of the conversation between Lin Jie and his parents was clearly heard by her. It turned out that Lin Jie wasn't here to pick up the package. He happened to bump into her parents, and he didn't want her to be sad, so he stopped them for her. Her parents' words still left a deep chill in her heart, but Lin Jie's thoughtfulness also brought warmth to her heart. Lin Jie's mouth was truly vicious. Every single word he spoke was sharp and incisive. She couldn't see her parents' expressions clearly due to the greenery, but she could sense their awkwardness and helplessness. She thought that her parents would fall silent because of this, but who could have thought that they would actually start apologizing to Lin Jie? They had already disappointed her greatly, but at this very moment she was still disappointed once more. Back when she had argued with them, they had never admitted to their mistakes. They had always treated her as if it was only right for them to do so. Yet, at this very moment they actually admitted that they were wrong to Lin Jie so easily. Just as Shi Yao was feeling a little sad, Lin Jie spoke up once more. Since we've bumped into each other today, I'll make it clear to you. Even if you don't love her, I do. Even if you don't feel pain, I do. Even if you don't dote on her, I do. Even if you can't give her a beautiful family, I do. Shi Yao's eyes reddened. She didn't listen to what they were saying anymore, as if they had never appeared at all. She took a few steps back before turning around to return to the Lin family's old residence. Instead of returning to the house, she headed to the backyard and picked up a pair of scissors to pluck a huge bouquet of flowers. Not too long later, she saw Lin Jie returning to the courtyard and entering the house. Not too long later, the door to the house was pushed open forcefully, and Lin Jie rushed out. Shi Yao knew that he must have asked Auntie Sun about her whereabouts after he returned. Fearing that she would overhear the conversation between him and her parents, he hurriedly rushed out to look for her. Only then did Shi Yao put down the scissors and hugged the bouquet of flowers, pretending as if she had just finished plucking them. After taking 2 steps, she pretended to see Lin Jie and called out, Lin Jie? Lin Jie turned around and saw a young lady carrying a huge bouquet of fresh flowers in her arms as she skipped toward him from the back garden. She actually didn't go to the door to look for me but went to the back garden? Shi Yao passed the bouquet of flowers to Lin Jie and said, Here, it's for you. Lin Jie stared at Shi Yao's face for a moment, and after making sure that everything was normal, clean and warm, he finally reached out to take the flowers. However, he still couldn't help but feel a little worried. He continued staring at Shi Yao for a while longer before asking, Did you go to pluck flowers earlier? That's right. I heard from Auntie Sun that you went to pick up your package, so I wanted to come out to look for you. However, I happened to see the flowers blooming in the backyard, so I ran over to pick a bunch. Shi Yao knew that Lin Jie didn't want her to know about his parents' visit, so she had to pretend that she didn't know about it. Not only so, she had to do everything in her power to cover up the matter so that Lin Jie would believe that she didn't know about it. Chapter 889. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao shot Lin Jie a radiant smile that was as dazzling as the bouquet of flowers in his embrace. I picked these flowers for you personally. Do you like them? After confirming that Shi Yao hadn't seen him chatting with her parents, Lin Jie's heart calmed down. He lowered his head to look at the flowers in his embrace before replying, I like them. As long as they're from you, I like them. Huh. Lin Jie can even say words of love like that? Shi Yao blinked her eyes as she stared at the flowers in Lin Jie's embrace. Then she stared at Lin Jie's handsome face for a moment before reaching out to touch his face mischievously. She said, but Lin Jie, do you know that I'm not the only one in the world? Compared to these flowers, I prefer this flower of yours. Lin Jie. Was he being teased by her once more? If I were to write a book titled Girlfriend Always Wants to Be the Main Character, what would happen? It would surely become a hit. Lin Jie's voice was so soft that Shi Yao couldn't hear him clearly. She raised her head and asked, what? It's nothing. I'm just saying that you're mischievous. Mischievous? The skin of a mantis shrimp? Lin Jie. Is there any word that you can't associate with food? Lin Jie. No, it's Pipi Yao's skin. Shi Yao. Compared to Pipi Yao, I still prefer mantis shrimp. After dinner at the Lin family old residence, Lin Jie and Shi Yao didn't stay for long before leaving. This was because they had already booked a gathering at the Golden Resplendence many days ago. To be more precise, it was a gathering organized by Lu Benlai and Xia Shangzhou to celebrate Shi Yao and Lin Jie's ending singlehood. The people invited to the gathering were all familiar faces. Lin Jie's roommates and Shi Yao's roommates. However, Song Chaoshi didn't come because she was accompanying her wife on a trip to Chongqing. When Shi Yao heard the news, she was a little disappointed. Of the 4 roommates in Lin Jie's room, Song Chaoshi was the only one she hadn't met. She felt that Song Chaoshi was someone who lived in the sexy and frisky group. Other than that, there were also Liang Jusi, Lin Jai, and Huang Nian. Shi Yao was the one who invited the Year of Desolation. This was because she remembered the discussion she had with Lin Jie back then, and it was to facilitate He Tian in the Year of Desolation. Thus, when they were deciding on the name list, Shi Yao had specially mentioned the Year of Desolation, and Lin Jie was more than happy to have the Year of Desolation fall in love with someone else. Shi Yao and Xia Shangzhou were the first to arrive. When they arrived, only Lin Jai and Xia Shangzhou, who were having dinner with a client nearby, had arrived. Roughly 10 minutes later, He Tian, Jiang Yue, Leng Nuan and the others arrived, followed by Lu Benlai, Desolate Year and finally Liang Jusi. Due to his work habits, Xia Shangzhou had gotten used to serving Lin Jai. Even though this was just a private gathering, he still acted as Lin Jai's lackey, surrounding her like a lackey. When she finished her wine, he would immediately refill it. When she wanted to sing, he would immediately pick a song for her. When she wanted to eat nuts, he would immediately peel them. His attitude was even more Lianing than when he took care of Empress Dowager Cixi. As for Lu Benlai, he naturally circled around Leng Nuan. Even though Leng Nuan paid him no heed, he still found it enjoyable. Chapter 890. Can I call you Desolate Year? I play Honor of Kings, what do you play? Even though Desolate Year was known for his vulgar words in the game, he was still a rather shy person in real life. After being stared at by He Tianqian's question, he felt a little embarrassed and replied, I play PlayerUnknown's Battleground. The furthest distance in the world is me in the King's Canyon, and you are on the island map. He Tian took a sip of wine with a sorrowful look on her face. After which, she turned to look at Desolate Year and said with a bright smile, but it's fine. I'm willing to help you conquer the entire island. Shi Yao was initially worried that He Tian and Desolate Year wouldn't have anything to talk about, but after seeing this sight, she quietly retreated to Lin Jie's side to worry about Zhang Yu. After all, out of the 4 girls in her dorm, 3 of them had someone accompanying them. Only Zhang Yu was pitiful, but while she was paying attention to He Tian, Zhang Yu and Liang Jusi had already started chatting with one another. Liang Jusi said, Your phone screensaver is an anime? Zhang Yu said, yeah, I'm a 2D fan. You too? Liang Jusi nodded vehemently as if he had finally found a connection. That's right, who do you like? I like a lot of them. One Piece, Crayon Shinchan, Detective Conan. Jiang Yu recited a bunch of anime before asking Liang Juicy, "What about you? What do you like?" Liang Juicy scratched his head. "Oh, don't be like that, uncle. The senior next door is always flirting with me. She even pounced on my Adonis in my dreams. These are all erotic comics." Shi Yao subconsciously shot a glance at Lin Jiej. Noticing Shi Yao's gaze, Lin Jiej immediately grabbed a pillow and threw it at Liang Juicy. In the end, before the pillow could be thrown out, Jiang Yu spoke first. "Bro, you're actually still at the age of looking at porn. You're really pitiful. Let me tell you, I've already paid attention to real people such as Mist Song and Little Zay, Liang Juicy. I'm also paying attention to these real people, bro, but I get annoyed after watching them for too long. By the way, bro, who do you think is better, Mist Song or Little Zay?" Jiang Yu thought for a while. "Bro, I think they each have their own merits." Shi Yao widened her eyes in shock. "You can actually chat like this?" Lin Jiej silently put down his pillow. Soft Bun's roommate sure is fearsome. Amidst this bizarre scene, an hour passed before Shi Yao finally received a message from Lung Wan. "It's done." After reading through Lung Wan's message, Shi Yao didn't respond to it. Instead, she put away her phone and hurriedly finished the coconut milk sago in front of her. After which, she told Lin Jiej, "I'm going to the washroom," before standing up. Seeing her getting up, Lung Wan stood up as well, and the two of them left the suite together. Not too long after Shi Yao and Lung Wan left, Lu Benlai walked up to Lin Jiej and asked, "Boss, are you going to the washroom?" Lin Jiej didn't want to go, but recalling that Shi Yao had gone to the washroom, he nodded and walked out of the suite with Lu Benlai. After Lu Benlai entered the bathroom, Lin Jiej stood in the corridor, waiting for Shi Yao. Out of boredom, he reached out for his phone, hoping to kill some time. However, his fingertips brushed against something hard. It was only then that he remembered that he hadn't listened to the voice recorder he had received at his doorstep earlier in the evening. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej brought the recording pen to his eyes and examined it for a moment before pressing on the switch. Chapter 891. There was a short burst of noise from the recording pen. About 10 seconds later, an aggrieved voice came from the recording pen. "I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry." Lin Jiej felt that the voice sounded a little familiar, as if he had heard it somewhere before, but he just couldn't recall where. "I know that you must be blaming me right now, and I also blame myself. It was a moment of muddle-headedness that caused me to make so many mistakes. After I was sent back to my hometown by my uncle, I did blame you, but I realized that behind my blaming you, I was also reminiscing about our past." Hearing those words, Lin Jiej finally realized whose voice it was. Liang Juicy's cousin. Could she be the one who had sent this recording pen to him? But according to Liang Juicy, she had been forcefully sent to a third-rate university overseas yesterday, and there wasn't even anyone to pay for her living expenses anymore. So, did she send this recording pen to him before she left? The voice on the recording pen continued, "Yao? Can I still call you Yao Yao? Are you unwilling to forgive me even if I apologize? I know that it's hard for you to believe me after all the mistakes I've made. But Yao Yao, do you know? I was blinded by greed, and I really know that I was in the wrong. I shouldn't have treated you like that." So Liang Juicy's cousin was talking to Soft Bun? But why wasn't Soft Bun speaking at all? Just as Lin Jiej was making up his mind, Shi Yao's voice sounded from the recording pen, "I can't go back anymore." "What do you mean?" "Yao Yao, the meaning of your words, are you still not willing to forgive me?" "It's fine, I'm willing to wait." "You can wait if you want to. It has nothing to do with me anyway. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first." Hearing Shi Yao's words, Liang Juicy's cousin's soft voice suddenly turned furious. "Shi Yao, you keep saying that you don't like Lin Jiej, but what's the truth of the matter? You're eating with Lin Jiej, and you're even staying in his house. You even told me that you wanted to annul your engagement with Lin Jiej, but what about now? Have you annulled your engagement? Don't think that I don't know that the Lin clan is already preparing for your marriage to Lin Jiej. You've always been lying to me. You said that I've never been true to you, but what about you? Aren't you the same for me? We're each other." A slight frown formed on Lin Jiej's forehead. Why do Cousin Liang Juicy's words sound so familiar? He seemed to have heard of it somewhere before. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao's voice sounded from the recording pen. Whether you believe it or not, I've never lied to you before. I was serious when I told you that I wanted to cancel my engagement with Lin Jiege. And it's also true that I don't like Lin Jiege. I have a life that I want to lead. And I have someone that I want to love. Lin Jiege subconsciously tightened his grip around the recording pen. It was no wonder why those words sounded so familiar to him. Back when he brought Soft Bun to Chengdu, Soft Bun had bumped into Liang Juicy's cousin at the Beijing airport. He had overheard their conversation, and he had heard those words before. Chapter 892. If he wasn't mistaken, when Liang Juicy's cousin and Soft Bun bumped into each other at the airport, she had even made a recording of her apology. Liang Juicy's cousin must have intentionally left such a trump card up her sleeves. She's waiting for me to suffer a crushing defeat so as to use this video to drive a wedge between me and Soft Bun, so that I won't get off scot-free either, right? But even though he knew Liang Juicy's cousin's motive, he still couldn't help but feel the discomfort in his heart. Who was the person that Soft Bun wanted to fall in love with back then? Was she still thinking about that person now that she was with him? She was with him. In the dead of the night, in the middle of the night, when she was thinking of him, would she still think of that person? Lin Jiege knew that he shouldn't be having such thoughts, but he couldn't control himself at all. It was because he liked her that he cared about her, and it was because he liked her so much that he even wanted to be a part of her past. Humans were always like this. When they didn't have what they wanted, they were already satisfied with what they had, but once they had it, they would want more. He had to admit that even though Liang Juicy's cousin had a lot of dirty tricks up her sleeves, this move of hers before she left had indeed struck a nerve. That was because everyone was sensitive and narrow-minded when it came to happiness. Boss, what are you daydreaming about? Lu Benlai, who had come out of the bathroom, saw Lin Jiege leaning against the wall with his head slightly lowered, and he couldn't help but call out to him several times. Recovering from his daze, Lin Jiege replied with an "oh" before staring blankly out of the window once more. Boss, what's that in your hand? Boss? Lu Benlai stretched out his hand and waved it in front of Lin Jiege. Lin Jiege hesitated for a moment before turning to look at Lu Benlai. Meeting Lin Jiege's gaze, Lu Benlai repeated his words once more. Boss, what's that in your hand? As if he hadn't heard Lu Benlai's words, Lin Jiege replied absent-mindedly, A long while later, he finally replied with an "oh" before stuffing the recording pen into his pocket and staring blankly out of the window once more. Noticing that something was amiss, Lu Benlai stared at Lin Jiege for a moment before asking, Boss, did something happen? Lin Jiege shook his head silently. Boss, Lu Benlai was just about to speak up when Lin Jiege's phone suddenly rang. Lu Benlai shut his mouth and stared at Lin Jiege for a moment. Seeing that the latter wasn't picking up the call, he spoke up once more. Boss? A moment later, Lin Jiege turned to Lu Benlai and asked, What's wrong? Lu Benlai pointed to his pocket and said, Your phone is ringing. It was only then that Lin Jiege finally came to his senses. He reached out to grab his phone. He fumbled for his phone several times before he finally pulled it out. He stared at the screen for a moment before he stopped himself from answering the call. Lu Benlai's sharp eyes noticed that the caller ID on Lin Jiege's phone was 21, and he couldn't help but ask curiously, Who's 21? Lin Jiege ignored him. Lu Benlai pondered for a moment, but he didn't think that it was likely that Lin Jiege would leave a note for another female student, so he guessed Little Junior? Noticing Lin Jiege's drooping eyelids, he knew that he had guessed correctly. Thus he continued, Boss, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and answer the phone. Chapter 893. The phone in his hand vibrated for a very long time, and just as it was about to quiet down, Lin Jiege tapped on the screen and answered the call. Even though he was feeling a little down, his voice was still very gentle when he spoke to Shi Yao. Lu Benlai, who was standing by the side, had no idea what Little Junior was saying on the other end of the call. A slight frown appeared on Lin Jiege's forehead as he asked, Now? After which, Lin Jiej replied with a "all right" before hanging up. "Boss, did little Junior say anything to you?" Lu Benlai asked curiously. Lin Jiej glanced at him and said, "She wants me to head to the backyard now." "Backyard? Why are you going to the backyard?" Lu Benlai continued asking, but Lin Jiej ignored him. Lin Jiej began walking away, and Lu Benlai quickly followed behind him. Of course, his mouth wasn't idle either. That's weird. Didn't little Junior and Wan Wan go to the washroom? Why would they head to the backyard in the blink of an eye? Boss, did you go the wrong way? This isn't the way to the backyard. It's the way back to the suite. Before Lu Benlai could finish his words, Lin Jiej walked out of the suite with a thick coat in his hand. So, he's bringing a coat for little Junior. Lu Benlai quickly shut his mouth. After leaving the main entrance of the Golden Resplendence, the two of them circled around the brightly lit building before finally arriving at the backyard. The red plum blossoms in the courtyard had already bloomed, and Lin Jiej and Lu Benlai walked along the cobblestone path for quite a distance. At this point, Lu Benlai couldn't help but ask, "We're already at the backyard. Why haven't we seen little Junior and Wan?" Before he could finish his words, Lin Jiej suddenly stopped. Seeing that Lin Jiej had come to a halt, Lu Benlai also came to a halt. He swallowed the words that he was about to say, and just as he was about to ask Lin Jiej what's wrong, he followed Lin Jiej's line of sight and saw that there was a piano at the center of the plum grove. Seated right in front of the piano was the little Junior that they were looking for. She was initially dressed in a simple sweater and jeans, but at some point in time, she had changed into a white sweater paired with a nude dress. In front of her and behind her were red plum blossoms, red and white intertwined. Under the bright light, she looked like a fairy who had accidentally entered the human world. Putting aside the infatuated Lin Jiej, even Lu Benlai, whose heart belonged to someone else, had to admit that the current Shi Yao was breathtakingly beautiful. Lu Benlai noticed that Lin Jiej wasn't responding at all, so he turned to look at Lin Jiej. Just as he was about to remind him, Shi Yao suddenly spoke up. There was a microphone in front of her. Even though there was a distance between them, her voice could be heard clearly. "I've listened to many songs, walked many roads, read many books, and met many people, but what I want the most is to spend time with you." As soon as Shi Yao said those words, a smooth and moving melody flowed from her fingertips on the piano. It was a very quiet and slow piece of music. When it fell into people's ears, it gave people a very peaceful feeling. It took an entire minute before Shi Yao's voice finally sounded. "I want to spend time with you, like lowering my head to look at the fish, or leaving the teacup on the table, wasting their beautiful shadows." P.S. The original lyrics came from the poem, "I Want to Spend Time with You." Someone adapted it into a song, and it's quite nice. Chapter 894. I still want to waste even the setting sun, such as taking a stroll, until the stars fill the sky. I still want to waste when the wind blows, sitting in the corridor in a daze, until the dark clouds in your eyes are all blown out of the window. I've already wasted the world, but tomorrow I still want to waste it. It was the same quiet and slow melody again. Shi Yao's fingers danced across the piano keys. A winter breeze blew, bringing with it a bone-chilling chill, causing the red plum blossoms on the tree to fall. Separated by the falling flower petals, Shi Yao raised her head and met Lin Jiej's eyes. The melody didn't stop, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. A gentle voice drifted across the night sky, bringing warmth and comfort to the night. I want to waste time with you, to waste the short silence, the long meaningless, to waste the delicate yet aged universe together, such as leaning on the railing, gazing at the mirror in the water. I've already wasted the world, but tomorrow I still want to waste it, to waste it, to waste time with you. The 10 minutes of music and singing didn't leave one feeling bored at all. Instead, when it came to an end, it left one with a lingering sense of nostalgia. After Shi Yao finished playing the final tune, she sat quietly in front of the piano, staring at Lin Jiej through the drifting petals of the plum blossoms. After a while, she reached out to pull the chair she was sitting on and stood up. A gust of wind blew, causing her dress to flutter in the wind. She stared straight into Lin Jiej's eyes as she slowly walked toward him. In truth, she hadn't planned to do all of this. If not for the fact that she had accidentally bumped into him and her parents at the entrance of the Lin family mansion earlier that evening, she would have never thought of doing all of this. In their story, he had always been the one who took the initiative, and the one who took the initiative more and more. On the other hand, she hadn't properly expressed her feelings to him yet, so she had come up with this surprise with Lung Nuan at the last minute to let him know that he liked her, and she liked him too. Shi Yao stopped roughly a meter away from Lin Jiege. Lu Benlai, who had been standing by Lin Jiege's side, had already been dragged away by He Tian, who had also rushed over to watch the show. By the time Shi Yao stood up, Lin Jiege was still staring at her, seemingly still in a daze. He was much taller than her, so she tilted her head upward and smiled at him. Lin Jiege, I've tasted Huangshan's hibiscus cake, Beijing's roast duck, Yunnan's cross bridge rice noodles, Hangzhou's Zilongbao, Chengdu's translucent beef jerky slices, Guillin's landscape rice noodles, and Chungyang Lake's hairy crabs. But all of the delicacies in the world can't compare to spending time with you. Lin Jiege, I want to have with you. Lin Jiege, spicy rice, Monday, spicy noodles, Tuesday, spicy noodles, as Wednesday, spicy as Thursday, as sweet and sour as day. Sweet Thursday with as sweet, Thursday to salt. Salt as chicken Thursday, as sweet as Thursday, sweet Thursday, sweet as sweet Thursday, as sweet as sour salad Friday, as bitter Friday, bitter as on Lin as day as. I want to savor the deliciousness of food with you. I want to walk home hand in hand with you. For the rest of my life, I want to spend every minute and every second of every day with you. I only want to spend them with you. So, Lin Jiege, as Shi Yao spoke, she raised her clenched right fist toward Lin Jiege and stared fixedly into his eyes. Slowly, she opened her palm and asked, Are you willing to? Chapter 895. As Shi Yao spoke those words, Lin Jiege saw a ring lying in her fair and dainty palm. The design of the ring was exquisite, and the diamond was extremely small. However, under the refraction of the surrounding lights, the diamond shone brightly. It was so bright that it stung Lin Jiege's eyes, and he couldn't help but feel a tinge of warmth in the depths of his eyes. It wasn't that he wasn't curious about what she was up to when she called him to the backyard, and he had thought of many possibilities, but he never thought that Soft Bun would actually propose to him. This was something that a guy should do, yet she did it. Although it was the other way around, he realized that he was very touched, so touched that he was in a complete mess. A woman should only put down her reservations and propose to a man if she truly liked him and cared about him, right? Just like that night when Han Jing slandered her, she took the initiative to ask him to be with her. She took the initiative to give him the most precious first night and the longest life of a woman. Lin Jiege felt as if there was something stuck in his throat, and it felt exceptionally uncomfortable. How if *kept up? A man like him actually felt like crying at this very moment? Seeing that Lin Jiege was staring at the ring in her palm, Shi Yao blinked at him before speaking up once more. Lin Jiege, why are you in a daze? Why aren't you putting the ring on my finger yet? Don't you want to marry me? Then let's change the method. If you don't want to marry me, you can marry me instead. If you aren't saying anything, I'll take it as a silent agreement. After saying those words, Shi Yao grabbed Lin Jiege's hand, held his fingertip, and took the ring from her palm before slipping it onto her own finger. After which, she raised her finger to Lin Jiege's face and waved it around as if she was showing off. Lin Jiege, let me tell you this. You're mine for the rest of your life, so you won't be able to escape even if you want to. Lin Jiege, look. Isn't my proposal ring beautiful? Isn't it especially beautiful? Before Shi Yao could finish her words, Lin Jiege suddenly raised his hand, grabbed her shoulder, and pulled her into his embrace. Then he hugged her tightly. He knew that he should say something to her, but his brain was like paste, and he couldn't think of a single word. In the end, he could only hug her. He hugged her tightly, hugging her even harder. He hugged her so hard that he felt as if he wanted to embed her into his bones and blood. Shi Yao felt a little pain from his embrace, and she couldn't help but frown as she muttered softly, "It hurts." Before she could finish, he said, "Don't talk." Instinctively, she shut her mouth. He loosened his grip on her a little, but it still hurt a little. She held it in for a while and couldn't take it anymore. Just as she was about to speak again, she felt something wet on her neck before the words reached her throat. It was as if someone had sealed Shi Yao's acupoints, causing her to freeze on the spot. After a while, she finally realized that the wetness was from his tears. She suddenly felt a little helpless. She only wanted to give him a surprise and let him know her feelings, but she never thought that things would turn out like this. She panicked for a moment before she felt a lump in her throat, and her eyes reddened. With an aggrieved voice she said, "Lin Jie." Chapter 896. Flustered, she uttered two As, but before she could say a third word, Lin Jie suddenly spoke up, "I love you." Due to the huge fluctuation in his emotions, his voice was a little hoarse, but there was a deep texture to it. The words that came out of his mouth were simple and easy to understand, but it made Shi Yao feel as if someone had sealed her acupoints once more. She fell into a daze in Lin Jie's embrace, unable to move at all. A gust of wind blew, and the rustling of the tree branches sounded. Another bunch of flower petals fell to the ground. Shi Yao's mind was completely blank. It took her a long time before her mind finally started working again. "I love you," he said. "I love you." Her already stinging nose felt even more sour, and hot tears flowed uncontrollably from the corners of her eyes. No matter how many words she could say, it was impossible for her to describe her feelings. She could only use her body language to respond to him. She raised her hands and wrapped them tightly around his waist, returning his embrace. This was a joyous occasion. Lovers finally found a way to be together, and she was filled with boundless joy. In fact, the corners of her lips couldn't help but curl up. However, the tears at the corners of her eyes only grew more intense. It didn't take long for her tears to drench the front of his shirt. It was clearly him, a man who wanted to cry because of her. Why was she crying like a tearful person now? Lin Jie couldn't help but chuckle softly. Hearing his laughter, Shi Yao couldn't help but laugh along. After laughing, Shi Yao asked, "What are you laughing at?" "What are you laughing at?" "I'm happy. I'm very happy too." Another gust of wind blew, and a whole flower fell on the piano keys, making a very light melody. Piano red plums and the two of them. That was the best time they had ever spent together in that winter. Before Lin Jie and Shi Yao could finish hugging each other, the surrounding spectators had already begun to leave. The first to leave was Lin Jie. She looked at Lin Jie and Shi Yao, and a phrase came to her mind, "A match made in heaven." Then, she recalled that someone had said the same thing about her and Qin Ting 6 years ago. It was a summer day, and she and Qin Ting were eating shrimp noodles by the roadside. When an old shrimp noodle vendor was serving them a bowl of shrimp noodles, she asked, "Miss, is that your boyfriend? The two of you look like a perfect match, like a match made in heaven." After Lin Jie left, Xia Shangzhou didn't dare to stay any longer. Hugging her coat tightly, he chased after her and said, "Boss Lin, it's cold outside. Do you want to put on your coat?" Then, Desolate Year left because the scene in front of him was too cruel. It reminded him of his little cutie. Then, he decided to go back to the private room and drown his sorrows in alcohol. Roughly 10 seconds after Desolate Year left, He Tian noticed his presence. She immediately turned around and jogged over to him. "Desolate Year, you promised me that you'd add me on WeChat. Can we scan the QR code now?" Year of Desolation took out his phone, searched for the WeChat QR code, and passed it over to He Tian. He Tian happily scanned the QR code. While adding Zhang Xian as a friend, she said, "I really hope that you have a QR code installed on your heart too. That way, I'll be able to enter your heart just by scanning it." As soon as He Tian said those words, Desolate Time, who had just added her as a friend, suddenly felt a little regretful that his hands were moving too quickly. This big sister is a little scary. Chapter 897. Leng Wan was just about to move when Lu Benlai suddenly spoke up. "Leng Wan, where are you going?" Ignoring him, Leng Wan continued walking toward the golden resplendence. Lu Benlai didn't mind that he was being ignored again and again. He quickly caught up to Leng Wan and asked, "Aren't you envious of little Junior's love?" Leng Wan continued to ignore him, but the lowered corners of her eyes revealed her envy and desolation. Lu Benlai didn't notice Luo Ruoxin's reaction at all. Seeing that she was ignoring him, he continued asking shamelessly, "Let me ask you another question then. Do you want to be together with little Junior?" Lung Nuan continued to ignore him. It had been some time since Lu Benlai had confessed to Lung Nuan. Perhaps it was due to the influence of the two of them, but after staring at Lung Nuan for a while longer, he finally spoke up once more. "Lung Nuan, I'm sincere. To tell you the truth, I've liked you since spring, and it's already winter now. Can't you seriously consider me?" Lung Nuan's footsteps didn't stop, and her expression didn't change at all. Her lips didn't show any signs of opening, but the fingertips hidden in her pocket were trembling slightly. "Lung Nuan, what do I have to do for you to consider me? As long as you say it, as long as it's within my means, I'll do it for you even if it costs my life." Lung Nuan continued walking forward silently, but Lu Benlai suddenly halted his footsteps. Staring at Lung Nuan's back, he continued, "Forget it. I won't force you if you don't want to respond to me. For every day that you don't like me, I'll continue pursuing you. For every year that you don't like me, I'll continue pursuing you. In any case, day after day we'll just continue wasting time like this. There's still a long way to go." Lung Nuan suddenly halted her footsteps. "I don't like to drag others down with me. If you really want to put an end to this, I'll do it for you." She stood with her back facing Lu Benlai for a while before slowly turning around. However, her gaze wasn't directed at Lu Benlai but the sky. She stared at the night sky for a long while before continuing. "It'll be Christmas in 20 days. If there's a heavy snowfall in Beijing this Christmas, I'll consider you. If not, please don't talk about your feelings in front of me in the future." As she spoke, Lung Nuan turned to Lu Benlai and asked, "Can I?" Lu Benlai raised his head to look at the sky before turning his gaze back to Lung Nuan. Without any hesitation, he nodded and said, "Sure." Lung Nuan didn't expect Lu Benlai to agree to it so readily. She was stunned for a moment before turning around and walking into the grand hall. Lu Benlai stood on the spot, watching as her silhouette disappeared from his sight. Then he raised his head to look at the sky. In the end, only Liang Jusi and Jiang Yu remained in the backyard. The two of them stared at the hugging Lin Jiej and Shi Yao for a moment before they began muttering amongst themselves in boredom. "Jiang Yu, bro, I still can't accept this kind of artistic and fresh style. I prefer the kind where you strip naked and do it. Liang Jusi, we're allies. Anyway, I can't understand those emotional words of love. I feel that the beginning of a person is their true nature." "Jiang Yu, that's right, that's right. I don't agree with that at all. What I want is a harem of 3,000 male pets." Chapter 898. Right after they said those words, Lin Jiej suddenly let go of Shi Yao and lowered his head to kiss her. Jiang Yu's face immediately reddened. She raised her hands to cover her eyes and howled, "I'm still a baby." Liang Jusi abruptly turned his head around to face the kissing duo behind him. "The heck? I'm still a child. You're letting me see this." Lu Benlai had known Lin Jiej for 4 years now, and he thought that he understood Lin Jiej quite well. However, he still couldn't understand why a person who seemed so preoccupied before heading to the backyard would suddenly turn into a completely different person the moment he returned from the backyard, slaughtering everyone around him as though they were nothing but dogs. Initially, Lin Jiej was still very gentle. After holding Shi Yao's hand and returning to the suite, he turned to look at Shi Yao and asked, "Do you want to sing? What song do you want to sing?" After Shi Yao replied to him, he immediately walked over to the karaoke platform and cut off Lu Benlai's engrossed performance of "If You Love Me, Follow Me." It just so happened that the climax of the song had been cut off, and Lu Benlai glared at Lin Jiej in displeasure. "Boss, what right do you have to cut off my song?" Lin Jiej leisurely walked up to him and snatched the microphone away from his hand. As he passed it back to Shi Yao, he turned to Lu Benlai and said, "Because Yao Yao proposed to me," following which, after singing a song for a while, he Tian suggested that they play a game. The rules of the game were simple. Everyone would count, and if the number was a multiple of 7, they would have to drink 3 glasses of wine. The men would have to drink wine, but the women would have to drink beer. Lin Jiej was the first one to suggest drinking liquor, But when Shi Yao said, "Let's just drink beer," he immediately gestured for the waiter at the entrance to bring the beer over. Liang Jusi grumbled in displeasure, "Henpecked." Lin Jiej's sharp ears caught Liang Jusi's words, and he replied righteously, "I'm not henpecked. I'm the one who was proposed to by Yao Yao." After playing around until 11 in the evening, everyone started to get hungry. When it was time to order supper, Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou got into an argument with a female student over whether they should add spicy sauce to the barbecue. Lin Jiej, who was in charge of ordering, ignored Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou's opinion and ordered all of them spicy. Lu Binlai, Xia Shangzhou held in dissatisfaction. Not only did Lin Jiej not feel the slightest bit of sympathy for them, he even looked at the two of them with a righteous look on his face. "I'm the one who was proposed to by Yao Yao, so I have the final say." Lu Binlai. Xia Shangzhou. Did ordering takeout have anything to do with him being proposed to? What the hell did it have to do with him? What left Lu Binlai even more astonished was that Lin Jiej didn't eat much after the supper was served. Instead, he sat by Shi Yao's side, fiddling with the diamond ring Shi Yao had bought for him. On the way, a waiter was called over to deliver drinks. The attendant shot a few glances at Lin Jiej, and Lin Jiej noticed it. He raised the diamond ring and asked, "Do you think that this ring looks good?" The waitress, who simply thought that Lin Jiej was too good-looking, could only nod and say yes. Lin Jiej's lips curled up in satisfaction as he stared at the ring on his finger with an unconcealable pride in his eyes. "Thank you." Lin Jiej paused for a moment before adding, "Yao Yao gave this to me when she proposed to me." Unable to watch on any longer, Lin Jai bellowed, "ATM, have you had enough?" Chapter 899. Lin Jai tossed aside the potato chips in her hand and clenched her fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. "Can you stop saying that you were proposed to by Yao? I wouldn't dare to." Lin Jiej replied calmly. After which, he picked up a roasted chicken wing and placed it in front of Shi Yao's face. "Because I've already been proposed to by Yao Yao." Lin Jai took in a deep breath before taking another deep breath. Then she turned to Shi Yao and said with an unbelievably gentle voice, "Yao, control him." Receiving Lin Jai's instruction, Shi Yao hurriedly nodded before turning to glare at Lin Jiej and bellowing, "Fool! That's the fool you proposed to. That's the fool you proposed to. That's the fool you proposed to." It was only at 1 in the morning that everyone finally dispersed. Jiang Yu and He Tian had too much to drink, and the only one who was sober was Leng Yuan. With Lu Benlai's help, she stuffed the two of them into a taxi and returned to Ji University. Before the taxi left, Jiang Yu was still very reluctant to part with Liang Jusi, who was still holding onto a mineral water bottle and calling him his wife. On the other hand, He Tian held onto Leng Yuan's hand, calling him Desolate Year and Sweetie. Desolate Year drank a little too much, so Liang Jusi's chauffeur came to pick him up. Lin Jiej had Liang Jusi's chauffeur give Desolate Year a ride. As Lin Jai's assistant, Xia Shangzhou had to drive, so he didn't touch a single drop of alcohol. Lin Jai seemed fine when she was in the suite, but when Xia Shangzhou drove the car out of the underground parking lot, he saw Lin Jai standing by the roadside, vomiting furiously into the trash can. Xia Shangzhou hurriedly stepped on the brakes and grabbed a bottle of mineral water from the trunk before rushing over to Lin Jai's side. "Ms. Lin, are you all right?" Lin Jai raised her head to look at him, but before she could say a word, she began vomiting furiously into the trash can once more. Xia Shangzhou stretched out his hand and patted her on the back. When she finally calmed down, Xia Shangzhou unscrewed the cap of the mineral water bottle and passed it over to Lin Jai. Lin Jai took the mineral water bottle and rinsed her mouth before saying, "Thank you." Xia Shangzhou hurriedly took the remaining bottle of water from Lin Jai's hands before saying, "Boss Lin, why don't you get in the car? I'll take you home." Ignoring him, Lin Jai turned her head around to look at her surroundings before randomly choosing a direction and walking along the main road. Boss Lin, Xia Shangzhou chased after Lin Jai and tried to pull her back into the car, only to be flung away by Lin Jai. "I'm going to beat you up." Xia Shangzhou was so shocked that he took half a step back. Ignoring him, Lin Jai continued walking forward. She was wearing high heels, and her steps were unsteady. Xia Shangzhou turned around to look at Lin Jai, who wasn't paying attention to the road at all and was walking aimlessly forward. Thus he switched off the engine of the car and quickly caught up to Lin Jai. When Lin Jai ran the red light across the road, Xia Shangzhou grabbed her tightly. It was only when the light turned green that he let go of her. There was a pedestrian walking right in front of them, and just as Lin Jai was about to collide with him, Xia Shangzhou swiftly pulled her to the side. Just like that, he followed along with her. Gradually, the car parked by the roadside disappeared from sight. Chapter 900. Xia Shangzhou didn't dare to leave Lin Jai alone here. Seeing that there was an empty taxi by the roadside, he said, "Boss Lin, why don't I flag down a cab to send you home?" Lin Jai squatted on the floor, not moving at all. Xia Shangzhou called out once more, "Boss Lin." But seeing that there was still no response from her, he mustered his courage and grabbed Lin Jai's arm, pulling her up from the floor. By the time Lin Jai straightened her back, Xia Shangzhou realized that her face was already covered in tears. The words that he was going to say to send her home suddenly froze at the tip of his lips. Boss Lin is crying? The fearsome demoness who would kick down doors and shatter chairs at the slightest disagreement, the one who was even more valiant than a man, is actually crying? Xia Shangzhou stared at Lin Jai for a very long time before he finally managed to speak. Boss Lin, are you still all right?" As if she hadn't heard his words at all, Lin Jai continued staring at him for a moment before she finally moved her lips. "What time is it now?" Xia Shangzhou glanced at the time on his wrist and replied, "It's almost 2 in the morning." "I see." Lin Jai replied as her eyes suddenly turned a little blank. "Has a new day arrived?" "Yes, it's already the 3rd of December. Another year has passed. The 7th year has come. 7 years. 7 years. He still hasn't returned," Lin Jai muttered softly under her breath. Xia Shangzhou couldn't understand what she was saying. "Boss Lin, what do you mean by 7 years? He has left me for 7 years. Who is he?" Xia Shangzhou frowned. He was just about to continue asking Lin Jai when Lin Jai suddenly turned to him and asked, "Who are you?" It seemed like Boss Lin was drunk. She didn't even know who he was anymore. Xia Shangzhou moved his lips. "Boss Lin." Before he could say, "I'll send you back," Lin Jai suddenly came to a realization and exclaimed, "Oh, you're a navigator, Xia Shangzhou." He really despised this name, but he didn't dare to reject it. "Navigator, do you know? I miss him so much. I think about him every day, but I don't dare to think about him every day." Say, "Are you men also annoying? You clearly said that you would walk together for the rest of your life, but in the end you left me alone." As Lin Jai spoke, tears began flowing down her cheeks once more, and she collapsed to the ground once more. She did not speak again, but her shoulders were twitching. Xia Shangzhou knew that Lin Jai was crying. He had worked by her side for almost half a year. He had seen her send people flying with a kick, and he had also seen her throw documents in the conference room and scold the officials for being stupid. He had also seen her run a 100-meter race in high heels, but he had never seen her like this. So he was at a loss and didn't know what to do. He just stood there and watched her cry. After some time, she finally calmed down. Her face was still buried in her arms, but she said, "Navigator, do you know my story with him?" Chapter 901. She was already 25 years old, but the him she spoke of was still 19 years old. So what she meant was that, when the him she spoke of was 19 years old, Xia Shangzhou had already guessed the ending of the story, but he still didn't dare to come to a conclusion. She didn't speak anymore. It was already 3 in the morning, and the traffic on the streets had lessened significantly. Compared to the hustle and bustle of the day, the streets were quiet and empty. After a long period of time, Lin Jai finally spoke. Her voice was very soft, as if a gust of wind could scatter it, but it made Xia Shangzhou's heart ache for some reason. She said, "When I was 19 years old, he left this world and he left me as well." Xia Shangzhou was intending to send Lin Jai back to the Lin family mansion, but after getting on the taxi, Lin Jai said that she wanted to go to Jingfeng Villa. Xia Shangzhou knew of Jingfeng Villa. It was Lin Jai's personal residence in Beijing, but she rarely stayed there. In fact, the number of times she had returned in the past half a year could be counted on one hand. While the taxi was on its way to Jingfeng Villa, Lin Jai fell asleep. When the taxi arrived at Lin Jai's apartment, Xia Shangzhou called out to Lin Jai several times, but she didn't wake up. Xia Shangzhou stared at the sleeping Lin Jai for a long while before he finally paid the fare. Gritting his teeth, he bent down to carry Lin Jai into the elevator. Initially, he thought that Lin Jai would be very heavy because the impression she gave off was simply too valiant. But when Xia Shangzhou carried her up, he realized that she was really light, so light that he felt that she weighed no less than his cousin's 15-year-old daughter. When they arrived at Lin Jai's floor, Xia Shangzhou grabbed her thumb and unlocked the door. Pushing open the door, Xia Shangzhou walked in with Lin Jai in his arms, and in the next second, he nearly threw the sleeping Lin Jai to the floor. The entrance was filled with high heels of all kinds of colors, the sofa in the living room was filled with bags of all kinds of brands, and clothes were strewn all over the floor. There were unwashed dishes and confiscated takeout boxes on the dining table that he could see at a glance. This unsightly room. Was it really a woman's room? How could it be in such a mess? Were the she-devil and Boss really siblings? Boss was such a neat freak that he loved cleanliness to the point that he had to clean the dormitory every day. Their socks were never allowed to be left unwashed overnight. But the female demon could turn a mansion worth tens of millions into a pigsty. They were obviously a family, but why was there such a big difference? Calming himself down, Xia Shangzhou carried Lin Jai and carefully avoided the clothes scattered all over the floor before entering the master bedroom. Her bed was also a mess. He placed Lin Jai on the sofa and took out a clean set of bedsheets from her changing room. After changing into them, he tossed Lin Jai onto the bed and covered her with a blanket. He wanted to leave just like that, but after taking a look at the extremely messy room, he walked to the door and finally turned back. Then, starting from the dining room, he started to clean up the place square by square meter. 2 hours later, Xia Shangzhou wiped the sweat off his face and glanced at the clean room before preparing to leave. Chapter 902. She was wearing clothes, but it was winter. Even if there was a heater in the room, she might still catch a cold if she were to sleep like this. Xia Shangzhou hesitated for a moment before he eventually stepped into the bedroom. He bent down, picked up the blanket on the floor, and carefully covered Lin Jai with it. But just as he was about to get up from the bed, Lin Jai, who had been sleeping soundly on the bed, suddenly reached out and wrapped her arms around his neck. Without any warning, she brought his upper body right before her. Xia Shangzhou was taken aback by this abrupt turn of events. Then he saw Lin Jai opening her eyes. There was an intoxicated look in her beautiful eyes, and he knew that she was drunk. She stared at him, and a breathtakingly beautiful smile suddenly blossomed on her exquisite lips. Then, as if she had seen the person she had yearned for day and night, she spoke in an exceptionally gentle and pleasant voice. "Qin Ting, you're back, Qin Ting? Is that a person's name?" Amidst Xia Shangzhou's confusion, Lin Jai spoke once more with that same gentle voice of hers. "Qin Ting, what took you so long? I've been waiting for you for a long time." So his guess was right. This Qin Ting was the lover she spoke of who had passed away? While Xia Shangzhou was deep in thought, he suddenly felt a warm breath brushing against his face. He snapped out of his daze, and in the next moment he felt a light kiss on his cheek. It was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. It was faintly discernible, but there was an intense numbness that spread from his face to every vein in his body, reaching straight to the bottom of his heart. This unfamiliar yet stimulating sensation made his body stiffen. Following which, he felt Lin Jai's lips moving closer to his. Just as his lips were about to touch hers, she spoke once more, "Qin Ting." Those two words jolted Xia Shangzhou back to his senses. Without any hesitation, he pulled Lin Jai's hand away and dashed out of the door as if he was fleeing for his life. Xia Shangzhou even forgot to take the elevator. He climbed from the 30-story building to the first floor, and by the time he stepped out of the building, the chilly wind of the winter morning blew right into his face. He shivered uncontrollably before his mind gradually calmed down. He had left his jacket at Lin Jai's place, but he didn't dare to return upstairs to retrieve it. Instead, He walked to the entrance of the neighborhood with his teeth chattering, and he stood by the roadside, shivering from the cold. It took him a while before he finally flagged down a cab and headed to the Golden Resplendence to retrieve Lin Jai's car. By the time he returned the car to Lin Jai's parking lot and hailed a cab back to the academy, it was already 6 in the morning. Xia Shangzhou, who hadn't been able to sleep the entire night, was already lying on his bed. He lay on the 1.2-meter wide bed, listening to Lu Benlei's heavy breathing, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't fall asleep. It was as if a spell had been cast on his mind. Lin Jai's lips replayed over and over again, and the feeling when her lips gently landed on his cheek. After everyone had left, Lin Jiej called for a waiter to settle the bill before leaving the Golden Resplendence with Shi Yao. Oh. Chapter 903. Lin Jiej's car was parked by the roadside. When he reached out for his car keys, his fingertips brushed against the recording pin once more. His body stiffened, and his footsteps abruptly came to a halt. Shi Yao, who was holding onto his other hand, also noticed his abnormality, so she stopped as well. What's wrong? As she spoke, Shi Yao turned to look at Lin Jiej. Seeing that he was staring straight ahead, she followed his line of sight, but other than a few parked cars, there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Perplexed, Shi Yao frowned as she turned to look at Lin Jiej and asked, "What are you looking at?" Lin Jiej finally snapped out of his daze. When he turned to look at Shi Yao, he caught sight of the tiny diamond ring on her finger from the corner of his eye. As if someone had comforted him, his heart immediately softened. He met Shi Yao's gaze and shook his head. "It's nothing. Let's go home." He walked to the car, but he didn't open the door. He admitted that he was feeling jealous. He wanted Soft Bun's first awakening of love, and those feelings belonged to him too. But things had already happened, and time couldn't be reversed. No one could change it, and he couldn't keep harboring such thoughts. The past really wasn't that important, was it? At the very least, the current her was truly in love with him. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej quickly composed himself and raised his hand, intending to open the car door. But before his fingers could touch the handlebars, Shi Yao, who was standing beside him, suddenly spoke up. "Lin Jiej, why don't you just leave the car here? There's no need for the chauffeur to come all the way here. Let's just take a stroll back. Take a walk?" Lin Jiej frowned. It would take at least 20 minutes to get home by car. If they were to take a walk, how long would that take? Seeing the young man's reaction, Shi Yao could vaguely guess what he was thinking, so she spoke up once more. "Let's just walk in the direction of home. If we get tired from walking, we'll just call a cab home, all right?" There was no way he could reject her coquettishness. Without saying a word, he retracted his hand from the car and replied, "All right." At 2 o'clock in the morning, there weren't that many cars on the streets. The people on the sidewalks were no longer coming and going like they were during the day. Not too long after the two of them started walking in the direction of their home, Shi Yao finally let go of Lin Jiej's hand and hooked her arm around his, drawing closer to him. Perhaps it was due to the alcohol she had drunk earlier, but even though she wasn't drunk, her words were much more talkative than usual. "Winter in Beijing has always been cold. But this year I'm not afraid of the cold. Do you know why?" Lin Jiej didn't say a word, but he turned his head to look at Shi Yao. "That's because I have you." After saying those words, Shi Yao giggled to herself. The corners of Lin Jiej's lips curled up into a doting smile. Not long after, there was a pedestrian street. Many shops were closed, and only one selling sweet potatoes still had its lights on. Shi Yao had Lin Jiej wait for a moment before running over. After a while, she came back with a paper bag. The paper bag was steaming hot, and it was filled with a huge sweet potato. Shi Yao placed the sweet potato in front of Lin Jiej's face, and Lin Jiej took a symbolic bite before putting it down. Hugging the sweet potato tightly, Shi Yao nibbled on it with relish. Just as she was about to finish it, she suddenly thought of something and spoke up. Chapter 904. Come to think of it, it's been many years since I've eaten roasted sweet potatoes. The last time I had one was back in my first year of high school. It was winter back then, and there was an old man selling roasted sweet potatoes at the entrance of our school every day. When I heard that his wife had fallen ill, he relied on the income from selling sweet potatoes to buy medicine for her. Back then I felt sorry for him, so he would buy a sweet potato every night for his self-study session. But then, speaking up to this point, Shi Yao suddenly started stuttering. After that, there was a boy from the next class who was wooing me, and for some reason he noticed this habit of mine. So he started sending me roasted sweet potatoes 3 times a day, and whenever I rejected it, he would throw it away. You know how much I respect food, so I could only bite the bullet and eat it. But you can't possibly stop yourself from eating several pieces of roasted sweet potatoes every day, right? I told that boy several times to stop sending me roasted sweet potatoes, but he just wouldn't listen. In the end, I couldn't take it anymore, so I thought of an idea. I would return him a gift every time he sent me a roasted sweet potato, and tell him that it was a token of my sincerity. After that, within a week, he started hiding from me. Do you know what I returned him a gift? Shi Yao raised her head to look at Lin Jiej, and before he could say anything, she burst into laughter and said, "It's stinky tofu, ha ha ha." Hearing Shi Yao's answer, Lin Jiej couldn't help but burst into laughter. As Shi Yao passed by the trash can, she tossed the bag of roasted sweet potatoes into it. After which, she hooked her arm around Lin Jiej and continued walking for a while. Now that I think about it, there are many things that happened in high school that were rather hilarious. Lin Jiej, there was a boy who wooed me back then. I stayed at the dormitory in high school, and that boy stuck cotton candy all over a tree under our dormitory. Now that I think about it, it's rather romantic, isn't it? But do you know I felt so embarrassed at that time? When I was in my second year of high school, I became addicted to soda. Many boys would send me soda, and I managed to accumulate several hundred bottles that semester. In the end, I traded those bottles for several dozen RMB, and I used them to buy a lot of snacks. My greatest achievement was on Valentine's Day in the first half of my third year of high school. I received 68 love letters. Shi Yao's words didn't stop there. She recounted all of the fun things that she remembered from the past. Toward the end, she couldn't help but tilt her head to look at Lin Jiej and ask, "Lin Jiej, what about you? Did you encounter a lot of fun things in middle school and high school?" "No. There must be. Tell me about it. I beg of you." Lin Jiej, all right, don't say anything. Let me think. Shi Yao obediently shut her mouth and stared at Lin Jiej with her eyes brimming with anticipation. Half a minute later, Lin Jiej spoke up. "I represented the academy in the violin competition in my first year, and I won the first prize." He's ranked first in the entire Beijing Olympiad as a sophomore. First place in the 4th grade Olympiad. Tried to do the senior high school entrance exam in junior high school. Only 1 mark short of a perfect score in math. Chapter 905. I participated in a mathematics competition in my 3rd year, and won a huge sum of money. I entered G University as the top scorer in the National College Entrance Examination, and I earned over 10 million RMB in my first year. Hearing Lin Jiej's nonchalant tone, Shi Yao, why don't you tell me the story between you and Be There? Lin Jiej was stunned for a moment before he realized that she was referring to Liang Xiao. Isn't that a thing of the past? Why is it being brought up now? Lin Jiej replied honestly, "There's no story between the two of us." "You're lying. Don't think that I don't know that she's the only girl who took supplementary lessons from you in junior high. When she left the country, you even sent her off. Furthermore, she chased after you in junior high, and she even pulled up a banner to confess to you." Lin Jiej. He couldn't even remember these things clearly, so how could she be so clear about it? "Lin Jiej, tell me honestly. Was there any unspeakable secret between you and Be There in junior high?" "No." A second after Shi Yao said those words, Lin Jiej immediately replied, "Liang Xiao did confess to me, but I rejected her." "How did Be There confess to you?" "How else could she have confessed? It's just something along the lines of 'I like you.'" "Then how did you reject her?" Lin Jiej couldn't remember it clearly. He pondered for a moment before replying. I think I told her that I like mathematics, but I don't like you. Sure, Yao. So, there was a woman who lost to mathematics? And she was the woman who defeated mathematics? Who could have thought that after so many years, she would still be able to defeat her most feared subject, mathematics? As for what you said about tutoring her and sending her off at the airport, those are all misinterpreted by others. She's on good terms with my sister, but Lin Jai is a good student except for her poor grades. She's always at the bottom of her class, and her mathematics scores have always been in the single digits from primary school to high school. Unable to put up with it, Grandpa had me tutor her, and it just so happened that Liang Xiao happened to be listening in on it. That's how those rumors started. As for her going overseas, it was because my sister wanted to send her off and Grandpa happened to use our chauffeur, so I ended up being ordered around by Lin Jai. That day, there were a lot of cars driving into the airport, and by the time I parked my car in the parking lot, Lin Jai had already sent Liang Xiao off and called me to ask where I was. Hearing Lin Jiej's long explanation, Shi Yao's heart leaped in joy. However, she still couldn't help but grab Lin Jiej's arm out of curiosity and ask, could it be that you've never fallen for a woman before we got to know each other? Lin Jiej, no. Seeing that Shi Yao wasn't replying, Lin Jiej added, I really haven't. Lin Jiej spoke up once more. I'm really not lying to you. Putting aside my former classmates, I still can't tell who the girls in my class are even after we graduate. Shi Yao smiled in satisfaction. Then she added, Lin Jiej, I didn't expect your survival instincts to be so off the charts. Lin Jiej didn't say a word. The two of them continued walking for a while before Lin Jiej turned to look at the smiling girl. Recalling the voice recorder in his pocket, he hesitated for a moment before asking, what about you? What? Chapter 906. All of a sudden, Shi Yao's footsteps came to a halt. He had no idea what he was afraid of, but even his breathing had become subdued. Even his heart was beating erratically, and he couldn't help but hold his breath for a moment. After an indeterminate period of time, perhaps only 10 seconds or so, but to Lin Jiej it felt like an eternity, he heard her voice. There's someone. Lin Jiej didn't dare to look at Shi Yao. The silence between the two of them was a complete mess. Roughly 3 to 4 seconds later, Shi Yao spoke up once more. Lin Jiej, I don't want to lie to you. I really did meet someone that I once wanted to fall in love with. He knew the answer, but when it came from her mouth, he still found it hard to digest it. As if something was stuck in Lin Jiej's throat, it took him a long time before he finally replied with an oh. Shi Yao could tell that Lin Jiej was unhappy, so she leaned her head on his shoulder like a docile kitten and rubbed it lightly against him. Then she continued, but that kind of love is different from what you're imagining. I don't know if you have a female celebrity that you like very much, but it's the kind that you can't help but daydream about being together with her one day. Take Sis Jai for example. She would always say that a certain male celebrity is very handsome, and every time she sees his photo, she would say that he's her husband. Jiang Yu would hug Li Yifeng's pillow and say that it's her favorite. And the person that I once wanted to fall in love with is exactly that kind of existence to me. I'm not sure what you guys think, but almost all girls have the same youthful dream of being together with their idol. However, most girls know that it's just a dream, and it won't come true. After all, take Jay Cho for example. Isn't Madame Cho his fan? In the end, she ended up becoming his wife. It's really rare to see such a thing happen. So, it turned out that the person that Softbun once wanted to fall in love with was a certain celebrity? Which celebrity? Could he possibly be more handsome than him? Lin Jiej couldn't help but ask jealously, which celebrity do you like? From now on, the Lin family wouldn't be investing in any of that celebrity's advertisements anymore. He's not really a celebrity, but in my heart he's much brighter than a celebrity. At the mention of her idol, Shi Yao's eyes lit up. He's my idol as well as my Adonis. I'm sure you'll be shocked to death if I tell you about it. He's an esports player who plays games. Up till now I still don't know what he looks like. I think I've mentioned him to you before. He's the Adonis that I spent 100 renminbi to support. He's from Legend E Squadron. He's also the person who's always suppressing you on the leaderboards. He's the one I once wanted to fall in love with, Lin Jiej, who hadn't dared to look at Shuyao ever since he asked that question, slowly turned his head to look at her. Shuyao didn't notice Lin Jiej's gaze. She was still immersed in her own thoughts as she continued. He's very strong. Ever since he debuted, he's won many championships. However, what I'm most impressed about him isn't how strong he is in the game but the depth and purity of his character. He plays games out of passion, and in this world, there are very, very few people who are willing to do something out of passion. Chapter 907. Let me tell you, my Adonis's hands are really beautiful. They're so beautiful that they're just like the hands of the male leads in the manga. Their joints are clearly defined, and they're both aesthetic and erotic, Lin Jiej. Aesthetic and erotic. What kind of description is that? Oh, you must not know what it means. Let me tell you, this is a little secret of us girls. It's used to describe those men who look clean and abstinent, but the more they look like in bed. So, to say that my Adonis's hands are aesthetic and erotic, it means that his hands are really beautiful. Everyone is curious about what he looks like when he touches a girl's body, Lin Jiej. So, girls can be so perverted too. I've learned something new. Ha, Lin Jiej, do you know that I overheard some girls discussing what you look like when you take off your clothes, Lin Jiej? Sure enough, when girls get hooligans, there's nothing left for guys to do. Society. At this point, Shuyao couldn't help but gloat. But it's a pity that they won't be able to see it for the rest of their lives. Hearing those words, Lin Jiej couldn't help but chuckle softly. Hearing that, Shuyao turned around and saw an unconcealable look of joy on Lin Jiej's face. To be more precise, it was a look of delight and ecstasy. It was just like the look on her face when she dreamed of a mountain of snacks. She didn't say anything at all. All she did was say that the girls in the book wouldn't even be able to see him take off his clothes, so why was he so happy? Shuyao tilted her head and pondered for a moment. She couldn't help but feel that Lin Jiej's ecstasy was a little weird. So she asked, "What did I say to make you so happy?" "It's nothing." Lin Jiej's tone was very calm, but the smile on his face grew even more unrestrained. Really? You're a dog if you lie to me." Lin Jiej replied. In his heart he thought, I'm a dog, her dog. Shuyao hooked her arm around Lin Jiej's once more and began walking forward. After walking for a distance, Shuyao suddenly recalled the stories she had shared with Lin Jiej about their time in middle school and high school, and she couldn't help but feel a little sad. Lin Jiej, say, if we had gotten to know each other in middle school or high school, wouldn't we have gotten together then? Before he fell in love with Shuyao, he didn't want to have anything to do with her. After falling in love with Shuyao, Lin Jiej couldn't help but fantasize about how he would have gotten to know her much earlier. He couldn't help but feel a tinge of regret in his heart. However, Shuyao's melancholy only lasted for a few short seconds before she got over it. But it doesn't matter. We're at the tail end of our youth and we've walked together. In a way, we've spent our youth with each other. As Shuyao spoke, she couldn't help but feel that her intelligence was resonating with Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej, do you think I'm right? Something's wrong. Faced with Lin Jiej's denial, Shuyao turned her head away in displeasure. I have accompanied you through your youth. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.